No, I listen to it all the time. I tell all my friends to smack it raw.
Following podcast contains mature content. The views and opinions expressed by the co-host are not necessarily those of the host. Listener discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Smackin' Raw podcast, episode 155. I am your host, the Warden, Matt Ritter, and I am honored today to be here with my special guest, YouTuber, podcaster, musician, and so much more, who stayed up till 5 in the morning to do this show with us. Fowl, man, how's it going?
It's going really well, Matt. Thank you very much for having me. It's so crazy now. You list off things that I dabble in, but thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be up 5 to come speak to you. Thank you for taking the time out to make it happen to begin with.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on. So it's been weird because this podcast has actually existed for 3 years, but it's only really been this last year, actually since Corona happened, where I've had the opportunity to work with other podcasters and do stuff and have other podcasters kind of let me know that they enjoy what we do here and they want to work with me. So having someone like you, or as everyone that listens to the show that isn't here because Fowl's here knows, the Dead Ass Girls to Get Your Podcast Boys, the Young Kings of Wrestling, Smacked Raw Podcast, Benji Calavera, all these great people that I've got to work with recently, it does mean a lot. And it does make me feel a little bit validated that people actually want to come on here and do this show with us, and they think that what we do is cool. So again, I really appreciate you being here, but what's most important about why you're here is we are the very first stop on the hashtag Book Fowl Tour. And I want you to let everyone know who's listening what the hashtag Book Fowl Tour is and about all the really cool stuff you got going on right now.
Cool. So I kind of live, breathe social media. You can go find me at Fowl_original on Twitter, and then I messed up all the other social media, so there's no underscore in the other ones because I'm stupid. That's a 2016 mistake. But yeah, hashtag Book Fowl is I do loads of different stuff, and over lockdown I've been doing music for quite a while, singing, and like playing guitar, and just so happened one Thursday night I was sat in this room and I played a really shit version of Jericho's theme tune, by Fozzy, Judas. And he saw it and he retweeted it out. Now, as you were speaking about earlier on about like validation and stuff, that was like a major moment for me, which I thought was just off the cuff. His guitarist, Rich Ward, then said, no, you actually did a really good version. I'm like, shit, that's your song. So over the next 5 days, every single day, I arranged and rearranged an acoustic version of several different of my favorite wrestling themes. And I did it every single morning, and did that for 5 days. Those acoustic sessions have now been kind of wrapped together into an album, which was then submitted to cover licenses on Friday. It should be hitting stores like pretty much now. So you can go and look for Wrestling with Coffee Volume 1, which blows my mind. And so this Book Fowl Tour is my last month before I go back to work, and that'll be September 7th. So I thought, screw it, I'm going to go onto a bunch of podcasts that I've never had a chance to but wanted to, people that have invited me, and yeah, you guys are the first stop. So there's a hell of a lot going on, but it's essentially my last farewell tour that I have 24/7 time to do everything.
Okay. Is that going to be on iTunes?
Yes, it's going to be everywhere. So essentially, it's going to get released to every single digital store that you can think of when it comes to music, other than in a physical form. But I think I might try and get a CD of it.
I'm going to find it. I'm going to download it. I'm going to check it out. And you know what? We like to do new and inventive and fun things here because, as everyone knows, we are the #1 wrestling podcast on Pornhub because we are the only wrestling podcast on Pornhub. And how often can I say that I have Fowl here who is announcing the release of his CD of acoustic wrestling tunes and have him put on a short, if he wants to, live performance, maybe a song on Pornhub?
I would love to. It's just too late. I can't at this
Okay.
time in the morning. However, I think that there have been many a release on Pornhub that people can go and check out anyway. I don't think they need to see my release. And to be honest, I'd rather keep my release off Pornhub. But thank you so much. Like, I love this. Like, I was saying this beforehand. A lot of people have this, like, maybe version of me that doesn't really exist, like that I wouldn't come on a show like this. Of course I'd fucking come on a show like this. Like, you're on Pornhub? Like, this to me is like, I think you were speaking earlier on about like validation and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Being part of like the wrestling community, on Twitter especially, and like the podcast community, which is kind of part of that. It's really cool to go to other places and see how they do things. And like, when you said you were on Pornhub first, I was familiar with you guys, but I wasn't that familiar. I thought it was a rib. So I was like, whatever. But thinking back to it now, it's revolutionary. It's like, how many times can you come to Pornhub and be dissatisfied?
It's a good question. Here's the thing. It started off as a rib. Like, honestly, Travis and I are very we're raunchy in our takes on wrestling. We joke around a lot. We have a good time. And I throw stuff out there. Like, we've talked about making WWE inspired dildos and all sorts of crazy shit on this show. And one of the things I threw out there, I was like, Travis, listen, why don't you put us on Pornhub? Because what else is going to set us apart? Like, what are we doing that's different than anyone else? Everyone covers wrestling, whether it's, what we cover with WWE and AEW or New Japan, independents. Like, there's something out there. It's all done, but nobody's on Pornhub. And I've seen content creators that, shoot themselves playing video games and release video game footage on Pornhub. Like, it's not just porn on Pornhub, but that is what it's for. So why not take this podcast that we do and put it up there and brand ourselves as the #1 wrestling podcast on Pornhub and see where it goes? And so far it's worked out. So,
I mean, the best thing, yeah, is that whatever happens, yeah, you won't have a mess on your hands. So, yeah, I mean, that should be the slogan, yeah. Melts in your hand, not in your ears. Like, I mean,
oh yeah, you know what? I like that. We might have to steal that. That is really good.
Steal it. It's yours. It's yours. It's yours.
So generally, at the beginning of these shows, especially with everything that's going on, we do a little public service announcement as far as Black Lives Matter goes here in everything that's going on in America. Now, normally I have a message, and really this week with everything that's been going on, me getting this office put together and the baby coming and all that, I really haven't prepared anything, but I do want to encourage everyone, as we always do, if there are petitions in your town or if there are petitions, please petition. If you guys can donate money, please go donate money to some organizations. If there are protests and you feel comfortable protesting, go protest. Make sure you stay safe though. Stay in a group, because clearly here in America, it is okay to protest the fact that you don't want to wear a mask, but it's not okay to protest for equal treatment of people of color. Go figure.
I wanted to add to that. Like, a lot of people, and I don't really get a chance to speak about it that often, and I did kind of at the beginning of what was happening in America, and I'm a person of color. Yeah, like, a lot of people don't necessarily see that, and they won't hear it. They will never hear it, and it's something that I've been quite lucky for. But when this all first started, I spoke about like kind of being almost jaded by it, because I'm a little bit older. So like, I see this stuff and I'm like, yeah, flavor of the month next week. No one's going to care. The one thing that I've seen from this that I have to take away, and I have to kind of like, again, like, congratulate you for bringing that and keeping that kind of fire burning. There were a lot of people that came out and said stuff because it was apt at the time for them to say it. and it was perfect at the time for them to say it. They have all remained quite silent on that topic now. Now, I've lived that life, so the jaded man that I am, I don't really have time to deal with that struggle anymore. That's not for me, but it is for the next generation. And as you're saying, like the youth that I see go out there, especially from what I see on the news, like over here, and what I read as well, and what I see here in the UK, the youth are going to save us. Like they truly are. Like I really, truly believe that. Like they've got such good ideas, and they're doing it in the best way. I think it's just that some of us, the old guard, we won't necessarily see those changes, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be supportive of them. It's just, I feel like for myself, and I say a lot of times, like I'm going to stand out of the way and let people who can do something do about it. But like, I truly congratulate like you keeping the fire alive there, because it's something that I don't like to talk about too much, because it puts me, ironically, it paints me as a person of color speaking out about it and making that. And I don't like me to just be that, you know, that's the multifaceted part of it. But no, I really do respect that more than I think a lot of people would give credit for. So yeah, like I think that's a really good message to keep going.
Well, this all started because one, the Deadass Girls had retweeted something that I read about how there are a lot of male white podcasters who are very silent. And I took that as a, you know what, you're right. And not only are you right, but my best friend, my co-host, who I've known since the third, fourth grade, Travis, is a black man in America. And I do worry when he gets pulled over, what's going to happen to him. You know, am I going to hear a story? Am I going to see him on the news? I grew up with his family. I grew up in a very diverse area, and I had the privilege of doing that and seeing things from a different light. So the things that I have learned from those relationships and everything, I try and take this time to pass along to people that I see on the internet saying things that clearly just don't seem to understand, you know, the other side. And doing it from the standpoint that I'm like you, this is the way it's been explained to me. I now understand it, and I want you to understand it the way I do, so that we can make this a better place.
I totally concur, mate. I totally concur.
A beautiful thing is, last week we had TC from the Young Kings podcast on, and well, Travis and Vince had him on because I was off. I was setting all this up behind me, getting ready for that. And
Looks good, by the way. Looks good.
Thank you. TC has created a Black Lives Matter NWO style t-shirt. So it's the BLM with Black Lives Matter and the NWO logo. If you go to @MattRitter on Twitter, that's at MattRidder. It's in my pinned tweet. The proceeds from the shirts that he sells, he is donating to Black Lives Matter organizations to help support that. So we definitely, as fans of the Young Kings Wrestling podcast and as fans of TC and Malik and Tyreek, Wreak Havoc, we want to not only support their podcast, but we want to support that as well. So that is my push, my spiel here at the end of this segment is, please guys, go to @MattRitter, go find that link and support them, buy the shirt. Those proceeds are going to a good cause. So if that helps it, please go do that. But absolutely go support those guys, go support the movement. We would really appreciate it. Now let's get into why we're really here. What we all love, the wonderful, messed up world of wrestling. We're going to kick it off with a little bit of news and rumors. So now you're in the UK, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I heard, I don't know if it's true, but I'm going to ask you, maybe you know, Sky Sports has dropped WWE and picked up AEW. Have you heard that?
No. So that's, it's a bit of a weird one. I know that Mags is going on Headlock Talk to explain this. So luckily, yeah, I know this one. So over here in the UK, there's like Sky Sports cover different countries in Europe. So if you think of like, it's like DirecTV. Okay. DirecTV covers the whole of the United States, yeah. But individually, if you had individual cable companies, they would be your individual cables. But if you were living in Chicago, you're not picking up New York's Bell network. Like, that's not going to happen. It's kind of similar like that in Europe. In the UK, we have Sky, UK, which is a separate entity to some of the Sky other things, but they're all owned by Rupert Murdoch. He's revamped them all. It's a monopolies thing, so he owns various companies. Anyway, in Italy, they have a channel called Sky Italia, and Sky Italia is that version of Sky. They've got rid of WWE for AEW. Here in the UK, well, if you want to watch AEW, might as well just shill. Go to fight.tv, because otherwise you will be watching it about 4 weeks later, because it comes on ITV. It does get, what's really interesting with Dynamite is it gets a prime time showing. They show it on Monday night and they start it at about 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So it just overlaps the beginning of the start of Raw over here. And that's on free TV. So if you if you needed a wrestling fix before you went to bed and you didn't want to stay up for 4.5 fucking hours, you just go, I'll watch this from last week and I'll probably see a better show. And it's always been a really weird relationship here in the UK with wrestling. But the major thing is that story is kind of two stories in one. The WWE has gone from Sky in the UK to BT Sport. AEW are nowhere in the fray. Tony Khan said some very hilarious things when he spoke about the ITV deal, and a lot of people took it very seriously when he talked about how he couldn't get it live because of ad breaks and stuff. But let's just say there was a lot of bullshit there, and immediately, it's really funny in the UK wrestling Twitter started citing codes that Tony Khan was kind of blasé talking about. It's like, no, the thing you're talking about means you can do this, you just don't want to do this. And then Cody said that there was some very stupid things said at the beginning, which I think it made us we were told it was going to be free.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's going to be on ITV, it's going to be free, and then it's going to be on ITV on Friday. Okay, it's going to be on ITV, it's going to be cut. Okay, it's not going to be on ITV at all until maybe Sunday morning. All right, that's really weird. And you can have it live, you got to pay for it. This wasn't part of the deal, Blackheart. This was never part of the deal. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's kind of two stories. But yeah, Sky is now. It was with the WWE was on Sky for almost 25 since the beginning of their relationship, and it's looking at the story originally was they redid their deal with Sky in the UK, and about 2 months later, the network existed. So they did this massive multi-year deal. Yeah, you're going to be on pay-per-view, and then the next week you've got Cole and JR calling you an idiot for paying for pay-per-view. And why don't you get the network? And I was like, oh shit, man, that's how you make friends with your company, isn't it? That's how you make friends.
Well, for all of the listeners in the UK who may be listening to us for the first time because Fowl brought you over here, you guys can listen to an AEW recap from the Smackin' Raw podcast on both YouTube and Pornhub if you can't wait to see the show live, or if you want to see if it's even worth listening to. Either one of those places you guys can find us, and I'll plug all that where you guys can get that info at the end of the show. Also, in news and rumors, did you see that petition that came out to fire Bailey and Sasha?
Yeah,
what is wrong with these people, man?
Such weird stuff. I don't know if you've got a chance to watch SmackDown yet. So I watched SmackDown, and I love Bailey and Sasha. They are the highlight of the show for me some weeks, and you could build, and I think they basically built SmackDown on them. The second half hour.
Oh yeah,
it's just Bailey and Sasha shenanigans, and they're fantastic. People got too much time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. So I've taken a new approach to watching wrestling as of late, especially doing this podcast for 3 years and really analyzing things and everything. And part of it was something I heard from Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca, where they were talking about they had a problem with not only the Extreme Rules pay-per-view and the way some of that stuff went, but they had an issue with Kairi Sane, and something that we're going to talk about on Raw here when we get to it. But her tweeting out about her leaving the company after the segment on Raw, and how, it's quote unquote breaking kayfabe and it takes them out of it. Whereas I now watch wrestling not as a sports competition, but more as a Walking Dead or a Game of Thrones, where I can enjoy what I'm seeing and know that anything that comes out on Twitter from a wrestler's real life doesn't devalue what I just watched on TV. So having Kairi Sane come out and thank everyone when the TV show shows me that she's, in the trainer's room and she's supposed to be hurt and Asuka's really upset, it doesn't ruin that for me because I'm used to watching characters on TV shows die and then go on post shows after the show and talk about their death. Like, it's a thing. It happens. That's the way the world is now. So it doesn't really take me out of it because I view it more as a TV show than I do an athletic competition or a real life sort of thing.
I think to add to that, yeah, like where we're at now as well. I could argue. I think we could both argue for it that wrestling, especially in this season now in the lockdown era, it's become a TV show more than it probably ever has been before.
Mm-hmm.
Like it truly has. Like episodes are recorded in advance. We sometimes we'll have multiple camera angles. We've got studio sweetening. We've got a studio audience full of plants instead of just a few. You could argue that right now it is a TV show, and stuff like Kairi Sane speaking to say that if she's filmed the thing like 3 weeks ago and it's not live, I think it's more respectful to wait until the moment where she's in the trainer's room to make that statement than maybe like, I think it's like really similar to, let's say, something like The Apprentice, like in a reality TV show. And, they swear them all to secrecy beforehand. But the winner, they already know who the winner is. It's just they can't tell anyone for so long. I think it's a really similar situation. And as you said, like, I really truly see a lot of these guys and girls now. And for many years now, I've seen them as performers in a TV show. And the TV show happens to be that they all wrestle each other. Like, that's just the storyline. That's the format of the show. You can mess with it. And I think we've seen some really cool stuff. I would kind of argue against what they'd said. Like, I liked a lot of the stuff that happened at Extreme Rules. It was the schlockiest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. And sometimes you need that. Like, sometimes you do, don't you? Sometimes you need to sit there and go, like, Talk and Shopomania is happening this weekend. And I'm really hyped for it. It's being pitched as the worst pay-per-view ever. Like, there's like that innate kind of human like infatuation with, oh, it's so terrible, I need to see it so I can experience this with everybody else, and I can sit here and go, yeah, it was like the worst thing I ever saw in my life. But it just adds something to it. It really, really does. And like everything that the Fiend's been doing, like essentially dissecting and like retroactively taking apart a lot of the show, deconstructing it. Like, it's fantastic to watch sometimes. And that's where they're winking at the audience, but also not insulting our intelligence. And I think that's what, like, something like the Kairi Sane thing, that doesn't insult our intelligence. If she'd waited for ages and then and it was some stupid tweet from like WWE, we know it wasn't her. Like, she's waited to put that tweet out. And I think that, obviously, we're going to talk about it in detail a bit more, but I think it was really cool. Like, I think it was a nice kind of way to cap off her career, especially because a lot of people were like, is she angry? Like, what's going on? And feels like they left on good terms. Like, that's the kind of tweet you send out when you're on good terms.
Well, so do you want to, I normally let the guest host kind of roll. So where would you like to start? Do you want to start right at Monday Night Raw, or do you want to kick off SmackDown since it's what's fresh is with us? We can do AEW, NXT. Where do you want to kind of guide the ship and let me know where we want to start?
Cool. Well, I'd like to start with AEW because I think this week there were a lot of people that were like, there's this weird feeling with AEW from this week that it wasn't as good as it normally was. And I've been I don't like to get influenced by what other people are saying. So I'll watch it. I do a watch along. So I do an AEW watch along every Wednesday on YouTube. Now, when I do that watch along, that's me. Sometimes I'll come on Twitter and stuff, but that's essentially me for 2 hours watching it, depending on technical issues and how hilariously sleepy I am. Like, it will be like a show where I talk about it. Then afterwards, I've got a chance to kind of like digest it. And everyone on Twitter afterwards were like, there's something missing from the show. A lot of people said that was Excalibur. And I think it was Excalibur.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've looked back at it, and that's what it was. Like, the show was the same as normal, except for some hilariousness in the women's match. It missed Excalibur. And like, I really wanted to like that women's match, and I hate that they get the chance and they get all these eyes on them, and then it's sloppy and like.
Let's just get into it. We'll talk about the whole show. So we kick it off with the Inner Circle versus the Lucha Express and the Best Friends. Now, so Travis and I aren't an anti AEW podcast. You know, you got a lot of those people out there who are NXT fans and they're all against AEW, but we are somewhat critical of AEW. I personally cannot stand Chuck Taylor for the absolute petty fact that his name is Chuck Taylor and he does not wrestle in Chuck Taylors. If you are going to call yourself Chuck Taylor, you come out in Chucks. If you do not come out in Chucks, I cannot respect you or your dad bod.
I wear Converse.
Yes.
I won't wear Chucks. Yeah. So like, but
so, the only thing with this match that I really got is they use Marco Stunt as a weapon, which was really fun. But how is that not a disqualification? I know it's a 10-man tag match, but if you throw another person at someone,
man. I don't think because he doesn't make it a full man, and it's like
that's the one thing with AEW that really kills Travis and I is they haven't really defined what they do allow and what they don't allow, and it's kind of the ref's discretion. But growing up, you know, I grew up watching wrestling my entire life. Like, my first experience with wrestling was probably in 1990, 1991, when I was 3 or 4 years old, seeing Hulk Hogan, and then really getting into it around the Mick Foley Undertaker feud with the Boiler Room Brawls and stuff like that. That's where I really got hooked. Mm-hmm. So I've been watching for a very long time, and I have been trained through WWE and WCW and even ECW. ECW had no rules, but they let you know, like, there are no rules, that there are a defined set of rules. Sometimes they're crazy, like when WCW did the whole over-the-top rope disqualification stuff that they did for a while.
Oh, yeah. It's like no moves off the top rope. Oh, wasn't there like a match here? Like, I can remember this vividly. There's a match with Dean Malenko. It was the Catch Catch match. And then he decides for some reason to take a breather outside, and he's like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I Gail Kimmed myself in the past. Like,
so I'm used to having a defined set of rules, and I watch these shows and I enjoy them, but at the same time I see things and I'm like, okay, why is that okay? Why isn't this okay? When is it okay? When isn't? That's the one criticism we really have that AEW needs to tighten up is what is allowed, what isn't allowed, and let us know so that way as I'm watching it, I'm not questioning if this is okay or not or how they got away with it. Because clearly Ref Aubrey, who can be entertaining as all hell, is seeing all this go on, and she's just like, why are you guys throwing a tiny man around? Like,
it's weird though, because sometimes Aubrey, she'll come in, like, she is one of the most fantastic referees, like, ever, like, because she's got it down. Like, sometimes you'll see her in matches and she'll be like, oh, I don't want to do anything, like, I can't, and she'll like really react to it, like you could feel the pain. And then sometimes she'll just be like, I'm taking no shit, and she'll come over and start slapping people about. But as you said, there's no consistency there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the major thing, and it's something that was a criticism of at the beginning, was the Lucha Bros. So the Lucha Bros, they were just wrestling however they wanted. There was no real tags coming in and out. They were just doing whatever the hell they wanted. And then apparently people were like telling them in the back, you shouldn't do this anymore. And it was like, oh, now they're Mexican. That's the Mexican way. Don't worry about it. And
that's how Excalibur explained it away. He's like, oh yeah, that's how they tag in Mexico. It is what it is.
Yeah. And then Jericho apparently went to them backstage and said, like, dickheads, yeah, I've been to Mexico. This is not a Mexican thing. Fix up, actually tag team wrestle. Stop just having tornado tags every week. And that was, and you could see they changed, like, they started to make it so that, but FTR have been, I think, almost satirizing this, like, with the way that they've kind of approached, like, the segment they have later on. I think that your criticism, both of your criticism, yours and Travis's, are absolutely correct. There's like this weird kind of rules but no rules, and sometimes the rules are enforced, but sometimes they aren't. And it's just consistency. And I think with wrestling, if you're going to suspend your belief of everything in the ring, you need at least a touchstone of reality there. And the rules can really be that touchstone where you can go, well, no, they can't do that. Because there have been that match in particular, like, what the fuck's going on? Like, you watch the match and you're like, I actually have no idea what's happening here right now. And I expected that match to be main event. Like, that's a main event match. And you look, and I was like, oh, what the shit was this? Like, what was this? That was like a women's battle royale, like on Raw from like 2006. Like, why the fuck's it happening? And there's no need for it. Like, that was what it was. And I was just like, it felt a bit shitty because I don't watch NXT, but if I'd made the decision to watch, it's on the regs, yeah. But like, I don't watch NXT live. I watch it afterwards. But if I was in that position where it's like, oh, which show am I going to watch? I'm going to pick AEW, and then I put down AEW, knowing what's going on NXT at the moment. There's some fantastic stuff happening. So I would have felt cheated, in that hour. And I might, as an AEW, if I was watching both, I might have thought, fuck this, I'm just going to watch NXT the rest of the night.
So we got Inner Circle losing to, the Best Friends and Lucha Express because Matt Hardy comes down, his music plays, he's caused a distraction. Sammy Guevara then gets thrown off the top rope with Ref Aubrey's back turned, looking to see where Matt Hardy is, allowing Luchasaurus to get the choke slam and the win. That was another thing. Like, I saw a lot of people, oh, thank God Sammy's back. Finally, he's back. And I'm like, listen, I understand that, but at the same time, he was off for a reason. Like, it's not like he was injured and thank God he's back. He said some shit. He was being punished. Let's not. You can be happy he's back, but let's not like celebrate his return as if he wasn't gone because he did something wrong. Like
with that, I recently put a tweet out. Yeah, apparently the person that I put the tweet out about, it wasn't about them, but I did a whole show about them in the end. Like, so they did realize who it was, and it's someone on Twitter, and everyone will know who the fuck it is. We don't need to say his name. But that particular individual, I've literally become part of that video. But like, he pissed me off to the point because he's playing a character or whatever. Now, as you said with the Sammy situation, I know that this particular dickhead decided to say some stupid shit and then decide that apparently, like, penance is only 72 hours because there's a pay-per-view happening and not going to stop and train and shit like that. Now, this person, like, I've said to them personally that if you want to, like, grow and you want to become a better version of yourself, do some introspection, like, look in, but it's not going to happen overnight. Believe me, it ain't going to happen overnight. The thing with Sammy, I see a lot of similarities, and what I've noticed is that in that particular vein, people will be happy to forgive you if you at least show that you have some kind of like regret, even if that regret doesn't happen to be monetized, because that's a smart thing to do in this social media landscape. Because if you monetized it, then like, that's not something to be celebrated. Oh, just so you know, I didn't monetize the video. I mean, to be fair, if that was your first thought coming into this, this is all pre-planned. This is not an off-the-cuff video that you've made. Like, we were talking just beforehand and I said I put my light and stuff on. The video the Jericho video was the shittest video I've ever done because I wasn't putting any airs and graces on. If that was a Sammy apology, I'd probably be more likely to take it. But I think that, again, this lockdown era, the one thing that it's really done is the fans weren't there to say yes or no to it. It wasn't an issue. I truly think that if fans were about, that might have been a bit of a split reaction. I don't think it would have went either way. I can empathize with people out there that are going, oh, we got to give him a second chance. Oh, he's young and shit. Yeah, that's absolutely fine, because I'm not here to chase people away or cancel people or whatever, because that's not good for anyone's growth. But if basically you said something quite silly a few years ago like what's happened to Excalibur, funnily enough, in a similar vein. If you say something a few years ago and it was 10, 15 years ago, and since that point you've grown, fine. Take ownership of it. Yeah, you did it. But don't just say that you went on a 30-day fucking vacation and then came back, because that, to me, that's not growth. That's
Right.
hiding out till the heat lies low. Like, that's what it is, isn't it? And also coming back in the way that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Bit shitty on all counts. And like, I don't have any problem with anyone that supports Sammy Guevara or anything like that, and I've got no issue with him. Yeah,
Right.
This is just a great question of like separating art from the artist and kind of thing. And like, yeah, he's a great wrestler, but he's also human, and that human did a stupid thing. So we have to let that human take the brunt of what they did for a little bit, even if that means that we don't get him saying L bitch, like, because if that's the only reason that he's coming back, then I mean, has he really learned anything?
Right.
Because
exactly. It's not just them. You see WWE kind of doing it too on a much more subtle level, where Velveteen Dream and Austin Theory just kind of disappeared, and you're waiting to, like, it seems like they're just waiting for the heat to die down before they bring them back. They're not really addressing the accusations and what happened with them. So what I will say is Sammy did go and address Sasha, and in the end, that was the person that, took the brunt of his attack. So in the end, it's up to Sasha to forgive him, not the fans or anyone else. It was personally between those two. And if she has, cool, fine. I'm with you. Don't come back and act like nothing happened and that you weren't off for a reason. Are you a John Moxley fan or a Dean Ambrose guy?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a very good question, actually. So I'm a Moxley fan. I like bits of what he does. Like, I think that with Moxley, I was really, really excited for him to turn up. Like, I was really excited to see him go to New Japan. Like, I love New Japan John Moxley. AEW John Moxley can sometimes be a little bit placeholder for me. Like, he just is there. But the match that he had, like main event match he had on this show, was sensational. And Dean Ambrose, I think he's a different kind of cat.
I will agree with that. So we set that main event match up with Moxley doing a promo talking about watching his little buddy Darby Allin get attacked, and how as a man he can't just sit by and let that happen. He needs to step up and do all these, stand up for Darby and have Darby's back. So it'll be Darby and Moxley versus Ricky Starks and Brian Cage in the main event. Then we go to the AEW debut tryout of JP Warhorse versus Cody Rhodes in this TNT title. So here's my thing. I have loved what they have done with this, even though I hate the belt and I hate the fact that they said they were going to finish it. And then Cody's like, I think I'm going to keep it this way because it's the way I got it. And it's like, don't tell me that you're going to finish a title and then be like, well, you know what? Maybe we won't because this is how I got it from Mike Tyson. It looks like crap.
It looks like the kind of title that Mick Foley held up in the video of when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what it looks like. The cardboard title. It looks like that shit. I mean, I agree with you. Like, yeah,
if Pornhub had a wrestling promotion, that would be the title, because that would be the least amount of detail they put into anything. This would be the Pornhub Wrestling Championship. That is what it would look like. So I was excited because last week with he just actually got signed to AEW.
Oh, Eddie Kingston.
Eddie Kingston cut a fantastic promo. I don't watch Impact. I stopped watching Impact a long time ago. I'm not a New Japan wrestling guy. I will say that. So I'm getting introduced to a lot of this talent and characters on AEW for the very first time. Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, Sonny Kiss, like all these matches really introduced me to these characters, and I was all for it. JP Warhorse, I've seen him on Twitter and I've seen things from him. This match didn't really blow my skirt up as far as I don't feel like they highlighted who JP Warhorse is as much in this match as they have other people.
Mm-hmm. I think with this match, like it's been a bit weird. Like with Eddie Kingston, for example, I didn't see him in Impact. I didn't see him anywhere else. I saw him on NWA Power, and everyone's telling me about like his fantastic promo, and I was a bit like, yeah, whatever. And I watched the first promo he did because I'm like, I don't know in it, and if people are telling me this guy's been so like, and I watched the first one, and I wasn't totally sold. Then I saw the next promo and I was like, oh no, like, because I thought it was just one thing. No, he's got like layers to him, and he's very, very good with language and like his intonation, like the particular intonation he has and stuff. Like it's a very specific thing. And I was like, oh, this guy's really good. And seeing him come out there and basically say to Cody, like, give all that pent up frustration and do it. This might be my only shot ever. Like, I'm going to do it. He got over immediately before he even started the match. You know, if anyone had any doubt about that guy, they'd be like, well, whatever happens, man, like that guy, I want to see more of him. Same with Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks came out. People know who Ricky Starks is, so they were a bit like, oh shit, and like everyone was quite surprised. He was quite, you know, a big free agent at the time. Looking at some of the other people back there, like Sonny Kiss, of course, that match broke down some barriers and it really showed where AEW stood in the grand scheme of things. But then the Warhorse match, I think the issue with that is that they probably thought the social media would be more than enough to cover for if you just happen to be a viewer watching it. They did something afterwards as well where Warhorse did like a really like big promo, but they'd only put it out on Twitter. It was like social media exclusive. This is a promo after you've all told us he should have done a promo. Like,
and I didn't see that. So all I got from him was Discount Ultimate Warrior.
Yes, so someone said that in my chat. Someone literally said in my chat, they were like, yo, is this a Warrior cosplay? And I was a bit like, I was like, kind of. There's more to it, but I think that they expected, this is something that AEW, like they talked about way back. They said that social media traffic, it only accounts for like a certain percentage of the number of actual wrestling fans out there. So when it comes to social media, the numbers may look amazing, but they don't really translate to eyeballs. So they wanted to try and pull it the other way, didn't they? So that's why they've got that stupid hashtag in your picture-in-picture and stuff. Like, they want to pull it back that way. But the only kind of way to pull it back that way is to bring people from social media. And I think Warhorse, everyone, and I think the other problem is even though these matches are all fantastic, and I love the concept of essentially saying, someone come to our house every week and I'll defend it. Like, I think that is and that's a really Cody thing to do, is at the end of the day, we know none of these people are going to beat Cody. Like, we know that this is the Undertaker streak in action week by week. And when the person that does beat him beats him, I would make the assumption that it would be someone on the main roster, as opposed to someone that just happens to be flying over, unless like they get Punk and they decide to spend all their money on it. Then that would be the one, wouldn't it? Like, Punk just turns up and then beats up Cody.
I don't know if you can see the Welcome to Chicago sign, but
nice to see. Yeah, because that would be an amazing use of funds. Because I know that they were saying for a while, like, oh, it's the money. He wants a lot of money. If you did that, I think a lot of people would be quite impressed. And he'd take that TNT championship around everywhere, wouldn't he? I could just see him doing it. Taking it.
After they got it finished. After they got it finished.
I could see him taking it to backstage, just holding it up there. So like,
I'm hoping, because someone that I've seen a lot from and I've heard a lot about is Danhausen, and I've seen his promos and the videos. I'd like to see Danhausen come in, even though, as you said, we know he's not going to win. Get some time, get some exposure with this TNT title, maybe do a promo or some stuff backstage. I think that'd be really entertaining. I think the biggest issue with this JP Warhorse thing is they kind of overshadowed it with the Dark Order beatdown and the debut of Matt Cardona coming down to save his buddy Cody and take out these nothing members of the Dark Order that apparently got the jump on the TNT champion because the match had just finished.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the major thing, is that I think that muddled things massively going out of that, because what would have been nice is the way Cody's kind of done at the end of all of his matches, like shook their hand, like put their arm up and said, check this guy out, or, you know, look how good they are. We didn't get that, did we? And I think that might be why it feels like a bit of a damp squib. But end of the day, he did get on TV in front of millions of people. And yeah, we saw Matt Cardona turn up, and I was like, I'm going to keep calling him Cardona. Is it Cardona? It's Cardona, isn't it?
I think it's Cardona.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, like it's radio silence from me. Like that is awesome. Yeah, for a name as well. Like I was trying to figure out what the hell he was going to call it, and like I've had his theme tune on radio in my head for the past like 10 years, and I was like, oh yeah, that's really smart. Radio silence. He's a smart guy, Mr. Ryder. Like I love the fact that he's got this chance to basically do what he was trying to do about 10 years ago, because he's a fantastically intriguing wrestler and creative force in my mind, who was a little too ahead of his time, and that's why I always look at him as.
Do you think that he could be the one to take that title off Cody?
What I would like to see, that's definitely a possibility, but we've been seeing this kind of like slight heel turn from Cody the whole way through, which has been a really nice wrinkle to the story. And I think if you had a match where it's friend versus friend, you know, I want the TNT title, I want to get that chance, and then Cody loses or Cody wins, he cheats to win, that's the moment. But no, that's really, I would love that to happen, but I'd only love it to happen if he puts his internet championship on the line, because then it's title for title. It's got to be, you know, it's got to be fair, I feel.
No, I'm with you on that. Speaking of fair, Jericho has an interview. He's talking about his $7,000 jacket that's been ruined, how he's going to be fair and give Orange Cassidy a rematch. But before that rematch in 2 weeks, next week, we're going to have a debate, because Chris Jericho is a great orator, is what he said. Now, I went on Twitter and said Chris Jericho is really good at oral, and I got a lot of shit from people. And I'm like, listen, I'm a podcast on Pornhub. I'm going to say stuff like this. Like, don't let it bother you. Someone even responded, and they're like, well, I'm sure his wife thinks so. And I'm like, she probably does. You're right. Like, I'm assuming if anyone would know how good Chris Jericho is at oral, it's his wife. Like, but
it's going to be his wife.
He said he's a great orator. An orator is a good speaker. It is an oral thing. So it made sense to me. I'm interested with Orange Cassidy's character and the lack of talking and just the way he carries himself, which I've really fallen in love with, because, again, first impressions of Orange Cassidy have all been AEW. And there are some guys that I've heard a lot about that AEW I don't think is utilized very well compared to the things I've heard about them coming in. And then there are guys like Orange Cassidy who have just blown me away, because I have such respect for someone who does the least amount, puts in the least amount of effort, and gets the maximum amount of exposure out of it. Like, it is fantastic how little he does, yet how much he gets over with it. How are you feeling about all of the Jericho debate and everything?
So, big fan of Jericho. Personal friend, obviously, close personal friend. Every now and then I might just jump onto the band if he needs. But like, in all seriousness, no. I've always loved what he's done with Reinvention, and I really like love the way that he's nurturing the talent there. Like, he's not doing something like you could expect someone like a Jericho to walk in, get the paycheck, walk out, and that's that. Yeah, like you can see he puts the extra effort into everything that he's doing. I don't know if I was that down for the original like GAC splat thing that happened. Yeah, like you can't do this shit on TV thing. Like, that was a bit much. Also, I remember watching it. There were like real oranges in that thing that fell. They must have got hurt. That must have hurt. Yeah, because the oranges on the floor. And I don't know if you saw after they did the cleanup on social media. They showed it on BTE, and they did it like Formula One pit stop, because I forgot that happened in the show, so they had to clean the canvas. I'm liking it all. I'm a big fan of Orange. I saw bits of Orange Cassidy before AEW, but just like yourself, once I saw him there, I got him. I think I didn't get him to start with. It was the match he had against Park. When he had that match against Park, that's when I was like, oh, actually, no, there's something about this guy. Because up until that point, I was like, nah. And I think it was just when he started putting in that little bit of effort, and I thought, shit. But even that, he's a fantastic athlete. Like, if you've seen him do some of the other stuff, if you go back and check it out, like, he's putting in, like, you can tell he's fighting hard to not put the effort in.
Yep.
Like, he's fighting really hard. Like, he's fighting his instincts. But fantastic guy. I'm really excited for this debate. Like, only because I want to see them debate. Like, I want to see them debate. Like, I want there to be a question come his way, and then Jericho give like a 20-minute answer, and then Cassidy just say yes.
It's going to be entertaining as all hell. And the most entertaining thing that I've gotten from AEW, my favorite thing, has been Adam Page. So Adam Page, that Deadeye that he does, that what I refer to as a reverse tombstone or a backdrop tombstone that he does.
Yeah.
That is a finisher that I thought I created back in like 2000 when we were backyard wrestling on my championship, or backyard wrestling on my trampoline. Like, that was my finisher. And to actually have someone do that on TV for me was really cool. I love what they've done with Adam Page. I am not a Kenny Omega guy. Again, I did not watch New Japan, so my exposure to Kenny Omega has been in AEW, and AEW has not given us, from what I hear, the Kenny Omega that everyone fell in love with over there. So I have just been waiting for Adam Page to turn on Kenny Omega and knock his teeth down his throat. Now, it doesn't look like that's what we're going to get, but now having FTR there, signing their contracts, Adam Page coming in, drinking with them, and then, you know, you get this match, Omega and Page defeating the Dark Order, Brody Lee being pissed, getting rid of Colt Cabana and Anna Jay as they come in, the Dark Order surrounds them, and FTR comes down to save them. FTR and Adam Page as a 3-man group, or possibly a 4-man group, blows my mind. I would absolutely love that.
Like, I was talking about, like, when AEW was like quite early on. I think I was like, what would be really cool, because SCU were there. I was like, yeah, we're throwing titles their way. The TNT Championship didn't exist yet. I was like, they should have a trios tournament. Like, fuck a title, yeah. Just have a trios tournament for a cup or something stupid like that, yeah. But have a trios tournament, because you had SCU at the time. You had, like, there were quite a few Death Triangle were, like, on the way. And I was like, oh, this will be awesome. And I love trios matches. I think what's really cool about the FTR thing is we've seen, like, Adam Page has basically been like adrift, like in the sea, like, you know, he's losing his friends and stuff, and no one understands his drinking. And then you've basically got these two good old boys that turn up and they're like, yeah, fucking smash a beer with us, man. And I love that he's found his people.
Yes.
And that, like, as a team, oh my God, like, I didn't know how much I wanted to see them as a team together until I saw them, like, kind of interacting, and I was like, oh my God, like, with Arn at their side, and like, it was very, very exciting. But I wanted to ask this question, actually. So, like, I keep asking it on Twitter, and people keep telling me, like, over here in the UK, when we buy a cooler, yeah, so we buy, like, a cooler, it's plastic, and, like, you buy like an actual cooler. Apparently, polystyrene coolers are a thing over there. Like, I don't understand this, yeah, because in my mind, they're like, that's like 10 quid. They keep throwing down the drain, and the beers. Right.
All my coolers are plastic. I don't buy disposable coolers. I know that it's more popular for tailgating or for like fishing. People taking styrofoam coolers, like you said, out. So I personally, if I were to go camping or something, all my coolers are plastic coolers, something that I can reuse and not get rid of. But yeah, no, they have them. People do buy them. I have no idea why.
It blew my mind, because the first week I didn't know of their existence, and then this week, like I said on Twitter, I was like, what the fuck is, and then someone's like, no, this is like a thing you should know, and I was like, no, because not in this world. But then Brody Lee no-sold it, so I was like, oh, okay, actually maybe they're gonna say, yeah, this is polystyrene, like, yeah, you got us, guys, because he literally no-sold that hit. Yeah, I was just really intrigued by it all. It's really strange sometimes to think of, like, It's a bit of a strange thing to me.
I was gonna say
It's
Brody
a
Lee sold
region.
that like anyone should have sold any of Hulk Hogan's chair shots because they were all awful. We had Britt Baker promo. She is our role model. She's on her golf cart. I really enjoy that Rebel has kind of gone from like the reluctant assistant to Britt's best friend who's like got her back now. And Britt lets us know she's going to be generous. She's going to give Big Swole a shot. But first, to get that shot, Big Swole has to defeat an opponent of Britt's choosing. I was not a fan of Britt Baker until the second week of this heel turn. Like, I know she was the first signed AEW women's wrestler, but again, they've had some issues in their women's division. Britt did not blow me away. I kind of figured after seeing a few of her matches on Dynamite, and I'm like, well, now I see why Britt didn't go to WWE and Chelsea Green did, because she's not really as good as the other women over there. I know why they took her husband and left her behind. Like, it made sense to me. But the character that she has developed as this heel that was terrible that first week, but she has really grown into, oh, it's awesome. It's some of the best character work on TV. Like, she is just the most despicable yet slightly entertaining heel. I love it.
It's like we all want to see her get a comeuppance, like every single week.
I want to see her get her ass
kicked.
We
want to see her every single week.
Then we had that the match that you mentioned, Sheeta versus Diamante, which did not go as planned, I don't believe. That was a rough one, man.
Like, I feel so every single week, I feel bad for the women's division in AEW because you can tell that they really want to put something good on. And I think sometimes they're rushed for time and they're like, get our shit in. And then someone just slips. And I think part of it is they're not getting the ring time that they need. And it probably, I wonder how much of their matches are just, you guys have got a match tonight, and how many of them are like Sheeta versus Diamante or like Ivelisse versus Diamante, where they're like the week before, this match is happening. Like, that it's happening next week as a performer as well as an audience. And there's a lot of expectation on those matches. Sheeta's been fantastic, but I don't know if it was Diamante or her, but like, obviously the finish of the match, I was confused. I was really confused.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't know. It might be a chemistry issue. I've seen Sheeta put on some great matches. Like, some of the best women's matches I've seen involve Sheeta. So I know Sheeta, Penelope Ford. I had no faith whatsoever in Penelope Ford. I put her in the same category as Britt Baker. Sheeta and Penelope Ford tore it down and really made me respect Penelope Ford as a performer and not just, an attractive side piece to Superbad.
Absolutely agree.
But
Absolutely
then again, this match, like I said, it might be a chemistry issue. Maybe, being up against the women's champion on this stage on TNT, Diamante had, a little bit of anxiety or, something was definitely off in this match. The next two things from Dynamite are probably the two most talked about things on Twitter. First off, we got Nyla Rose backstage with Vicky Guerrero, and we find out that Nyla's tag team partner in this women's tournament is Ariane. So before I let you get into it, let me just say this. I understand that when she was in WWE, she wasn't the best wrestler, and yes, AEW gets a lot of flack for their women's division and the wrestlers that they have, or the lack of ability that those wrestlers seem to have compared to other divisions. She also hasn't been in a wrestling match in years. I don't know if she's been training. I don't know how good she is now. And in my opinion, putting her in a tag team match where Nyla can carry the majority of it in case she needs to have some of her deficiencies hidden is the best way to do it if you're bringing her in. But I'm not going to judge her personally until I've seen her wrestle. I'm not going to go off what she did 6 years ago in WWE and her botched pin on Naomi with her finisher and all that. So, like, I'm not doing that. I get why people are like, oh my God, why would you sign her? But I don't know who she is now. That was, like I said, almost 6 years ago. Like, that was back then. I have no idea what she's been up to. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, and we'll see where it goes.
So again, I agree with you there. So for a lot of people, I forgot that obviously this year has been one of the longest years in history.
Yes.
So things that have happened this year, we forget that only how long was it? Only 4 months. 4 months. 4 months ago, yeah, WrestleMania was happening, and 6 months ago, we were hearing about people coming onto into indie matches. So I don't know if you guys remember, some of the listeners probably remember the Walmart wrestlers, and you might remember them. Those guys are all over Twitter, and they were supposed to be at the GCW show, which was going to happen as part of the big collective thing. Obviously, they couldn't turn up. Now, buried in all of those things that were happening, there was the rebirth, the story of Ariane coming back to wrestling, because I forgot about this, and someone reminded me on my live stream, because I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And they were like, I was like, "That's seriously why?" And also because a very interesting point was made. Nobody knows who she is for her to have enough clout, because she's been off TV for so long, to be able to say it's me, because you can't say it's me when no one knows who the fuck you are. The AEW audience are probably less familiar with the normal TV watching audience. The ones that are watching on TNT are probably less familiar with Ariane than the internet audience. So you're not popping a rating by having her on. I think, as you said, having her in a tag team match is the best kind of outcome for this. But it's just a really weird pick, it's almost and I said this on Twitter, and I want to be consistent with what I've said. I always say that you shouldn't, just like yourself, you shouldn't judge people based on what's happened in the past. This has just happened to Eve Marie. Eva Marie, with everything that's going on with her new show that she's doing. And people are like, "Oh, well, she was a shit wrestler, so what she's going to know?" And she didn't know nothing. I'm a bit give it a chance. With Ariane, I think that she could surprise us. She could go out there and just absolutely shock the shit out of everyone. But at the same time, probably feels this whole tournament feels like the Mae Young Classic. This feels like a payday. This doesn't feel like I've come to wrestle for AEW. So I don't think everyone should be as concerned as they are. But I feel if she gets enough heat and they go, "Well, fuck it, she's getting a reaction," they'll sign her. And the way that the women's division is right now, you shouldn't be adding more people to it. Again, unless she comes back, starts pulling out Canadian destroyers out of nowhere, and top rope hurricane ranas, then I want to at least give her a chance. But very polarizing, I feel.
I'm gonna give my interpretation here, the Smackin' Raw interpretation. So wrestlers like Eva Marie and Ariane back in the day are girls who talk a lot about how really good they are in bed, and then when you get them to bed, they just lay there and they don't do anything. But that doesn't mean they can't get better. The more sex you have, the better you get at it. So she can go from just laying there and taking it to porn star status over 6 years if she puts in the effort. And we don't know if she's been putting in the effort outside the ring or not.
See, the comparison, ironically, obviously, the comparison from wrestlers to porn stars, us being on Pornhub right now as well, I mean, it's quite apt. Because, I mean, the movie The Wrestler, I think that kind of looks upon a part of it. And I think that with those two, it was never they came from a different era. And I think that they were probably some of the last people to come out of that era, which was not, and I don't want to cast any aspersions on their particular career, trajectory or what they wanted to do, but it was quite fucking obvious that Eve Marie didn't care about wrestling. it was quite obvious that she was just going on a reality show.
Right.
And again, without knowing about this person, it was quite fucking obvious that Ariane didn't give a shit about wrestling and that she was going on a reality show called Tough Enough. Since that point, you can see they got some more love for it and stuff. But it always, to me, then says, well, why have you decided to come back to wrestling?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because you love it? If you love it, then fine. Then we're all here to like wait for you to get better. If it's just here to get the payday, get your payday, get the fuck out.
I'm with you on that. We're going to speed things up here a little bit. So obviously we're going to talk about MJF's State of the Union because we're already an hour in. We still got 3 shows to get to. But
Yeah,
there was a lot here. There was a lot here to talk about. We've had a lot of really good conversations. So MJF's State of the Union, he does his best Donald Trump. This guy is a fantastic fucking heel. He knows how to piss people off. He stays in character constantly. He makes you feel like he is really, truly a dickhead. And at the very end of it, he says he's coming for Jon Moxley's title. He has been the number 1 contender in the quote-unquote rankings, which, by the way, I haven't heard shit about the rankings in weeks as far as who's ranked what or where. It's like they almost kind of dropped that whole thing. But he's been number 1 in the rankings for a while now. So I'm all for it. I'm interested in that match, and he killed this promo. I mean, people were just going off about this promo online.
In short, like, as I said to anyone that's talked about this, just go watch the promo. Like, it says a lot of things that we've all been thinking. MJF knows how to garner that reaction. And, like, I would have loved for that to be in an arena with fans only because he would have had them in the palm of his hand for the whole of that speech, and he would have twisted the knife. And but great, like a lot of people are comparing it to the EC3 stuff. Obviously, yes, but we always take from the past to produce stuff for the future, so that's fine, isn't it?
And then our main event, we have the Ricky Starks promo that gets cut off. They start playing music. He was doing fine, but they had to speed things up. And then, so we have Moxley and Darby attack Cage and Starks during their entrance. Darby and Mox get the win here, but that skateboard spot on Ricky Starks' back with the thumbtack.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, like.
Oh, I was trying to work out how he got the thumbtacks on there, and I was like, he must have super glued them, but there were thumbtacks also in his back. So, like, there were no wheels on that deck. He just stabbed that guy in the back. Like, yeah. I my hat's off. I'm not taking my hat off, actually. Hair's a bit shit at the moment. But, like, hats off, yeah, to Ricky Starks. That guy is fucking trooper, man. Like, I can't even imagine, like, you know, like a lot of people spoke about at the end of it, like his legs all shaking and shit. Yeah, the man's had like a guy just slide over his back with knives.
They showed pictures afterwards. He's got cuts and just tacks in his back, and dude, they destroyed his back. It was amazing. Fowl, here on the Smackin' Raw podcast, for any new watchers who aren't familiar, at the end of every show, we ask a question. And I put these polls up on Twitter, too, so you can participate. And the question is, did you like the show or did you not like the show? But in our own fashion. If you liked it, you swallow. If you didn't like it, you spit. If you're on the fence, you can gargle undecidedly. So, Fowl, AEW, spit or swallow?
This week I'll gargle.
You're going to gargle? I think the MJF promo and that specifically that spot with the thumbtacks kind of put it over for me. I will say, the show didn't start out great, but it finished pretty damn well. So I'm going to go ahead and swallow AEW this week.
Okay.
So did you watch NXT this week?
No. So I haven't watched it yet. I will watch it, but I've heard roughly what happened.
All right. So we'll bang through NXT real quick. Then that'll help us get caught up. So we kick it off with a tag team match. It is Tegan Nox and Io Shirai versus Dakota Kai and Candice LeRae. Nox and Shirai get the win here. Really good match. Obviously, Io is talented as all hell. A lot of people were commenting about how Candice LeRae and Tegan Nox just kind of seem to be getting lost in the shuffle in this feud between Dakota Kai and Io Shirai. but I've loved what they've done with Dakota Kai, declaring her, intent at the NXT championship, kicking off Io Shirai's head. They're both great workers. I'm excited as hell for, their match eventually.
I'm happy that Dakota's back and healthy as well, because I was a big Dakota Kai fan, and obviously I haven't watched it as much, but when I was watching it, she was basically injured for the majority of it. But it's great to see her come back, and she has been kicking ass, like from what I've seen.
There's a lot of strong matches on this. We also recap the Pat McAfee Adam Cole situation, which confirms for me that this is all a work and it was not a shoot, which I thought right off the bat, because they've had the Adam Cole, Pat McAfee watch along interactions and the Undisputed Era Pat McAfee issues. So when I saw it, my immediate thought was that is not a shoot, that was a work. But with Triple H addressing it and now them bringing it up on TV, that kind of finalizes for me that Adam Cole really didn't flip out on Pat McAfee on their show, that this is all leading to something. You saw that. How are you feeling about that whole interview?
So like I watched it, and it's just weird. Like they seem to be kind of trying to fire up some kind of controversy for the sake of it. And yeah, like everyone else, like I always have this feeling, if it happens in the WWE, it's probably a work. Like it has to be a work. Even the Drake Maverick stuff, I was like, yeah, they've been working us since the beginning. And even now, when they're like, oh no, it's legitimate, I'm like, Drake's working us. I was like,
I'm gonna do a little something different. So obviously, the people that have recapped this know who the winners and losers are. But since you're gonna go back and watch NXT, I know I did the first match, but I'm not gonna spoil the results of NXT for you. I'll tell you what matches happen. I'll give you my opinion on them. You can talk if you want about, the competitors and if you're excited about the matches or not. But since you still have to go watch it, we won't spoil who won and who lost. So that way, when you go in, you don't have any, preconceived notions or, it doesn't ruin it for you. I don't want to ruin it for you. So Next up, Roderick Strong versus Johnny Gargano. This is a carryover from last week. You've got Bronson Reed beating both these guys, getting into that ladder match, which I love the fact that they're putting this young talent in the ladder match in Bronson Reed over guys that you would expect to win. And it's Gargano and Strong. It's a great match. It was a good match.
So that sounds like a great match. I'm a big fan of Strong, a big fan of Roderick Strong since his days back in TNA as the Messiah of the Backbreaker. So like, yeah, sounds like a great match. I would assume that Strong won. I would assume. Don't worry about it, because the thing is, as I said, like with NXT, the kind of way that I watch it is probably the wrong way. But by the time that I've watched, because I've watched so much wrestling, I might have found out the results anyway. So feel free to go with it. Like,
all right. Well, Strong actually loses to Gargano. Gargano gets the win here.
God damn.
And then next up, we continue what I refer to as the Robert Stone brand, the porn director that they've created Robert Stone to be, and his newest client, Mercedes Martinez, versus Shotzi Blackheart. Martinez gets the win here. Martinez dominates. I love Shotzi Blackheart. I love the tank. I love the welcome to the ball pit and everything she does. She is very female Jeff Hardy-esque, even though I'm not a huge Jeff Hardy fan. I prefer Matt because, in my opinion, Jeff just kind of falls off stuff gracefully, and people love him for it. That's all he really has. She has this too, but there's something about her that pulls you in, and she can eat these losses and still you're excited to see her every week. So it doesn't really hurt her to lose, where they are trying to push Mercedes here. So no, again, not a technical classic, nothing fantastic. It's Mercedes getting the win here, but it was a good match. It was obviously a violent match between these two. They beat the crap out of each other. Fun shit.
I love the fact that Mercedes Martinez is there. And with Shotzi, and like just as you said, like the Jeff thing, when she hits the main roster, like they are not going to be able to keep the merch on the shelves.
Like, I already have a Shotzi Blackheart shirt already. I love her.
It will sell out. Like once she gets onto the main roster properly, I think she's one of the kind of people that Vince would look at and go, I know what to do with her. Like I feel like she does. Like, I feel like he does. Which he doesn't have with Ruby Riott.
Yeah. Well, I think they might be turning that around a little bit with that Ruby Bianca thing, but we'll talk about that on Raw. So Keith Lee comes out. This is, the post Rocky IV, watching his friend get demolished by Karrion Kross. He's calling out Karrion Kross. Cameron Grimes runs down, has some things to say, and this is a different side of Keith Lee. This isn't the happy-go-lucky, cocky side. This is an angry, upset Keith Lee, and Cameron Grimes just steps in at the wrong time and gets demolished by Keith Lee. Scarlett comes out on the rampway. Keith Lee looks over and sees her. Grimes tries to cheap shot him from behind, catches a power bomb, and then we get the close-up of Karrion's eyes as he delivers a promo to Keith Lee, letting Keith Lee know kind of his intentions, and Keith Lee tells him, I'll fight you whenever. You pick the time and the place. You tell me, we will have this match. Keith Lee right now is probably my favorite wrestler. He is the person I see the most potential in out of any brand that I'm watching. He has everything as far as in-ring, charisma, presence, entrance. He's the total package. And I'm really glad they're running with him. And he's really blown me away this year and last year with the things that they've done with this guy.
With Keith Lee, I love Keith Lee. I think that he isn't your stereotypical wrestler, but he seems like such a nice guy. He does things that you would not like. Look at the size of the guy, and he has abs. Like he doesn't have abs because his work is because that ain't like that's pretty much pure muscle, and like I love that about him. With Keith Lee though, I truly think this is what I don't know exactly how it went down on NXT, and I still think it was a bit shit. The double championship thing, and then no, I don't want this one championship. That seemed a bit weird for me, and it did feel like almost like a hot shot kind of like, well, he'll be double champion for 1 week because Getcho loved that guy, and I remember like that was like their big highlight every week, and then it's like, so I've got these 2 belts, I don't want this one anymore, but I'll keep this one, thanks. Have a tournament.
Think about this now, mind you, you've been a fan for years. What did they do when Ultimate Warrior won both belts?
Yeah, but
so Keith Lee was North American champion. He was undefeated as North American champion. He has now climbed to the next level. He is NXT champion. He doesn't want to hog both championships. He doesn't have the ability to defend both championships every night. So he is focusing on the new tier that he is on and still allowing all of this younger talent to have what he had in the North American title. He is benevolently relinquishing it so that other people can have an opportunity on it, because right now he has stepped up to that next level, and this is now his main focus, is the way I looked at it.
Like, I understand where you're coming from, but I feel like in every sense that devalues the North American Championship.
Okay.
Because that's the way I kind of look at it, because it's not the newest title, and basically what you've said is that you've almost said it in like within storyline or within kayfabe, sorry, you've got like IC title, US title, we know they're stepping stones, but you would never say that. You would never say in a promo, well, I had this title, so because I had this one, now I can earn this one. Because then if a Jericho then becomes Intercontinental Champion, does that mean that this championship means more than this championship because he's gone for it? Kind of like when Cena went for the United States Championship. Did it bring the value of the championship up? Or did it, like, what did it do? I feel like it feels almost like he's got both championships now. Well, fuck it. Like, you just have this one. I don't really want them both. And that's what it felt a little bit like, almost WCW-esque. Like, hey, this guy's double champion. And next week, I've got a big announcement. One title down. And you're like, oh, I thought the announcement was like he's going to do like a potentially try and defend both championships.
Right.
But no, I do understand where you're coming from. And I think in the grand scheme, it's probably better for him to say, I relinquish, than him have a match and lose that title. So no, but it just came across as a bit weird to me at the time.
I'm with you on that. My perception is if this was the championship that Keith Lee held and it elevated him to the next step, then the next guy that wins it is now just behind Keith Lee. And we've seen what that championship did for Keith Lee to get him to the next step. So that now the next guy is even in a better position because the last guy that held it is now champion. So if you've earned this, then you're next in line. You know, kind of what the Intercontinental Championship originally was intended to be was as you said, the stepping stone. Once you became Intercontinental Champion, they were preparing you to move to the main event. That was its intention. So
no, I exactly. I totally agree with you there. I remember having like a long discussion with this about this with a few people because I felt that it was, I felt that it was done to just trying to pip AEW to the post anyway. They were originally exactly. So it being counter programming, but that's why I felt was a bit unfair. But to be honest, I never really looked at it the way that you've just kind of explained it. So thank you. Actually, that's very good. That is a very good way of looking at it.
And let's not forget they pushed Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage back a week because they didn't want to put it up against Keith Lee versus Adam Cole, in my opinion.
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, that match, Cole versus Lee, was a way bigger match than Cage versus Moxley anyway. Any day of the week.
Yep.
Any day of the week, even if the titles weren't on the line.
We got Imperium defeating Everrise. It's basically a squash match for Imperium, the champions who we haven't seen in a while. Undisputed Era comes down and then destroys Imperium and declares that NXT is still theirs. And anyone that crosses them, this is what they can expect. So we're rebuilding that Undisputed Era Imperium feud. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get Walter back over here. I was really disappointed we never got that Walter Finn Balor match. I was so excited for that when they started building it before COVID, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So.
It was supposed to happen at NXT Takeover Ireland, wasn't it? And oh shit, man. Yeah.
Yep. And then we had Jake Atlas lose to Shane Swerve Scott, which was great because Swerve's kind of been on a losing streak, so it was nice to see him get a win. This was a very AEW-esque match. It was very, high energy, spot heavy, dodging each other's moves. We know each other really well, hitting big things. So it was really entertaining in that point. They even did a second rope Murphy's Law, which bugged me because Murphy is on the main roster and that is his finisher. And you should not be using someone else's finisher as a spot in a match. But that's me nitpicking. And last but not least, and this was the big one, Dexter Lumis versus Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher. Winner of this triple threat joins Bronson Reed. They put Dexter Lumis over Finn Balor and Timothy Thatcher.
I heard this, yeah. So this is one of the things I heard from the week. So I haven't really had a chance to see Dexter Lumis other than like bits here and there. I mean, the major time I remember him was when he which now looking back at it is probably a bad thing, when he helped Velveteen Dream kidnap some people. Like in some match that happened behind like I don't know, it was real dark. There were loads of people watching and they all had their lights on and he was wearing not a lot of clothes. But so that's the only time I saw him. And then I remember seeing on Twitter, like he just had this photo of him with like Roderick Strong's phone and it was just a photo of his face. And I was like, oh shit, man. Like, I've heard that he's gone kind of face. Like, I don't really understand what his gimmick is, other than he's Dexter from Dexter, but with a mustache.
Yes and no. So I look at him. Are you familiar with the movie Red Dragon?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a huge horror movie buff. I am covered in horror movie tattoos, mostly slashers, but I love horror movies. I more see him as a cross between the guy from Red Dragon and why is his Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. I feel like they took those two characters and put them together. He's that strong, silent, kind of creeping in the background, antisocial, but wants to be social character from Red Dragon. But he also has this weird sexual vibe about him like Buffalo Bill does.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's the mustache, though. I think it is just the mustache because, like, because I'm picturing him in my head now. He has like blonde, like bleach blonde hair,
Yeah.
but a black mustache. Like,
No,
it's the
it's
mustache.
blonde.
Oh, is it blonde as well? I'm just
Yes.
thinking of Hulk Hogan then.
Yes.
Like, so he's always on my mind, actually. But like, yeah, so I don't really understand his thing. But I seem to be drawn to him. Like,
Well, that's the
I don't
thing.
know
So
why.
I look at him as, like I said, he's basically a serial killer without being a serial killer. And I've been advocating from day one that when he chokes his opponents out and he's sitting there and he's stroking their head, that he should put them in a body bag and drag them to the back. That's what I want to see. That actually started hashtag tea bags and body bags, which is relevant here because I also want to see Timothy Thatcher embarrass his opponents by tapping them out and then teabagging them after he taps them out. Hashtag tea bags and body bags. But yeah, no, I thought Finn was winning this. Like, I definitely thought Finn was going in this ladder match. I expected Finn to probably win the whole thing. So when Dexter went over, who I love, and as you said, strangely, I'm just captivated by this guy.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like every time I see him on screen, like I have drawn to him. Even in that match, which you know that Dream guy had. Like in that match, I was like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on in the rest of it. But I was like, this guy right here, like this guy right here. I like this guy. I don't even know why. He could have just been a taxi driver for all I knew. He could have been Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver for all I knew. And I
The
was like,
amazing thing about it is, if you really pay attention, you see him hiding in scenes throughout all of the show. Like he's always in the background with a small spotlight on him, but like in the shadows or like behind somebody, and you don't see him until they walk away, and you'll miss him if you don't look for him. But he's everywhere, just creeping quietly, staring and watching people. It is a really fun, almost Where's Waldo-esque factor to NXT every week is where's Dexter. So I'm swallowing NXT. Like I said, we had a lot of really good wrestling, a lot of great matches on this, and then that triple threat main event. I'm curious. I'm gonna hit you up on Twitter. Let me know after you've watched NXT which you liked better, the no disqualification tag team match or the triple threat match.
well, for now, the show will have to be just. You'll have to put it in my hair. It can't go anywhere near my mouth. Just have to pop it in my hair.
All right. You want to do Raw or SmackDown?
Let's go for Raw first.
All right. So
I think we can flip to that a bit faster.
Yeah, we got Randy talking about how he wants Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam, which I think we all saw coming. I'm expecting a good feud. It's going to be great. I've enjoyed Drew as champion. I really have. I think he's definitely carried himself as a top champion would since he's won the title. He's got that WWE champion feel to him like you would get from a Stone Cold or a Rock or anyone else of his size and his caliber. He's talented as hell in the ring, and he needs a guy like Randy Orton to really kind of help fuel this because Dolph Ziggler was not doing it for me, and most of the stuff he's done has not really done it for me. So
I think it gives him a worthy opponent. Like I think Brock was his last worthy opponent, and this would really help in the grand scheme. But I'm really down for this match. I think it'll be great.
Then we got Nia Jax coming out, talking about, Sasha versus Asuka and her rightful place in her match. And Shayna Baszler comes out, not having it. She's the dose of reality, as she said. These two start brawling. They get separated. And then they set up a match for later, Nia Jax versus Shayna. It goes to count out really quick. It wasn't a long match. They're brawling outside. We don't get a finish. And then they start beating up the security and the referees that are trying to separate them. They're tossing them, beating them up, choking them out. Typical Nia Shayna stuff.
Yeah. It was the thing, wasn't it? Well, that's just something. It was a thing. But it's nice to see them kind of on TV in a way that didn't involve other people because that could have been injurious to them.
Oh, okay. You're on that side of the fence, huh?
No, I'm not that much on that side of the fence. It's just more that like with the Nia thing, I'm not like I've got no issue with her whatsoever. Yeah, I mean a lot of wrestlers do, and parts of their body do, but like I don't have an issue with her. Luckily, I'm not a women's wrestler in the firing line.
Oh, that's what we're looking for, Fowl. That's what I needed to get out of you. I know it's early. Then we got the Street Profits ring announcing for the Viking Raiders versus Ricochet and Cedric Alexander and Angel and Andrade match. Garza gets the win here, pinning Cedric Alexander, and then Zelina's boys attack the Street Profits after the match. I have to say, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford are some of the most entertaining people. And the Young Kings actually brought up Montez Ford is a former U.S. Marine. And that's not something that they talk about like they do with Lacey Evans. Like they don't highlight that about his character because they want him to be that funny, tall, athletic guy. They don't want to play up, hey, this guy is a former Marine.
It's really interesting, actually. That would really add something to I guess it wouldn't fit in the gimmick, though, would it? Like, it would, even though it could, I feel like it could.
Yeah, because they've been talking about how the Street Profits need to get serious. That was Bianca's whole call-up, was telling them, you need to get more serious. Mm-hmm. Well, he has this background of being in the military, which is a very serious thing. So he should be able to turn on that serious aspect of him when need be. And playing that up and making him feel more of a threat in the ring on top of his outrageous athleticism would really bring, like you said, another aspect to that tag team that might be missing.
Like, I'm a big fan of the Street Profits. Like, I'm a big fan of like all the Saturday Night Live stupid shit they did over the past few, like all of that stuff that they did. I didn't like that, like what was going on with them and the Viking Raiders until they joined forces and started fighting ninjas. Then I actually was down for it. But this match was really good. I watched this match from Raw this week, and this was one of, I think that, like, from what I can see from Zelina's team, Angel Garza, I didn't realize all the stuff that he'd done in Impact, and I've gone back and watched it now.
Okay.
Oh my God, that guy is ridiculously good. Like, really? In my opinion, Angel Garza, I just have this, like, this vision of him being like I think Vince called him like the next Eddie Guerrero or something. It was like, he looks, I think that's more that Vince's eyesight's going these days, and he probably just thought, you know, eyesight's gone, there may be some issues of dementia potentially that people have spoken about. He might just think it's Eddie Guerrero. Like, I mean, he's probably talking to a frog splash a few times. But
Eddie, why aren't you frog splashing anymore? What is this weird move that you do?
Eddie, why'd you kid with Ray? Like, but yeah, I really liked this match. I thought it was a really good match, and whatever happens, even though the Raw Tag Team division is a bit meh, like, they always put on really good matches. Mm-hmm. They always put on really good matches.
I'm going to save the Seth stuff for last because I feel like that's where we're going to talk the most because it's close to my heart. So we've got R-Truth backstage with Mustafa Ali. He calls him Mufasa, wants to know if he's going for the 24/7 title. He's like, no, I'm just going out on the VIP lounge. I've got a match against Lashley. And he's like, I'm watching you, Mufasa. And he goes, did he call me Mufasa? Then we got the VIP lounge. MVP tries to bring Ali into the Hurt Business. He's kind of trying to coax him in and everything. Ali declines. Truth runs out, tries to steal a win on Shelton Benjamin and fails. Then we get Lashley defeating Ali, ninjas attacking, and they're just destroying the ninjas during this match because they're out there chasing around, you know, Shelton Benjamin trying to get it. This was a whole cluster. I love Ali. He's talented as hell. I was really hoping that MVP being a manager was really going to elevate Lashley. I was even down for Lashley beating Drew and then having Drew chase into SummerSlam. Like, I thought that would have been good.
Well, that would have been interesting, actually.
Lashley deserves, in my opinion, has earned the right to be WWE champion. You know, they only made him ECW champion in his first run. He's done some things on Impact that shows that he has the ability to carry, you know, himself as the top guy. I don't know why they're not giving him the chance or pulling the trigger, but yeah, I mean,
I do wonder with that because, like even with the Rusev feud, when he was with Lana, there was never really a kind of like push towards him going for the championship or anything.
Right.
Like, which you'd expect in a main event feud. You'd at least expect like the title to be involved in some way. And so I think he's been the habitual bridesmaid, and he's been just out of reach of a few of the opportunities. But I'm still of the opinion that I want to see Lashley versus Lesnar for the title.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that match will implode time. Like that's the kind of match that, like, because I think that no one could potentially guess the winner of that match, and I think that's the really interesting part of it.
So you remember when Brock came back after UFC and they really portrayed him as that beast, and he was just injuring people and hurting. He broke Triple H's arm and he did all those things. They need to get Lashley on that path before we get to Brock, because even though fans of Lashley who are familiar with him, as you said, the internet fans know what Lashley's capable of, the viewers on TV who don't know all of this information about Lashley just sees this guy who couldn't beat Drew McIntyre, who's playing second fiddle to MVP. You need to make him and build him as an equal beast to Brock Lesnar to really get the full effect of that match. Have him really use his full Nelson, start hurting people.
Totally agree. Like, I think that the full Nelson, for example, is a really good move for him to have, because it shows off his strength. It shows off how big he is as well, because it shows his wingspan. It just makes him like a much more formidable person. Plus, a full Nelson is the kind of move that you can logically understand quite easily. Like, someone could put you in a full, you ain't moving. And then you go, okay, what can I do? Like, it's a move which is believable.
It's all Chris Masters had, and it got him over.
Yeah, but he had a chair as well.
That's true. True. You had to sit down first.
Yeah, sit there. He never beat a standing man. That was it. I think that's part of the gimmick. I think it's like one of the magician's tricks, isn't it? It's like, oh, no. Put your hands like that. No. Put your hands like that. Mm-hmm. Why don't you put the other way? Oh, you fucked the trick up. God damn it.
I'm with you on that. Sasha defeats Asuka by count out. So we have Kyrie and Bayley out here very early. Kyrie chases Bayley to the back as Bayley tries to interfere. We cut to the backstage during the match. We see Bayley viciously assault Kyrie Sane, which signals Asuka to run back to check on Kyrie, causing the count out, giving Sasha the win here. A lot of people hated this. I've been actually not really arguing, but having discussions. I try not to argue. I just try to talk to people. And not devolve into the name calling that Twitter often does, about, why couldn't it have been a clean finish? Why couldn't Sasha just... We're trying to tell stories. What story do we get if Asuka beats Sasha clean, or if Sasha beats Asuka clean? There's no continuation. There's no development. There's no evolution of it. But having Sasha win the title as a heel in this fashion, and then seeing what we saw with Asuka coming out of the trainer's room, visibly distraught and furious, leads to something that we can then see. If Sasha just beat Asuka, then Asuka lost and the story's over. But now we have a vengeful, angry Asuka who will be coming for Sasha, which will lead to a match probably at SummerSlam where you get your decisive finish. But you can't just have people beat people every week and then complain about 50-50 booking because, we can't have 50-50 booking, but I want clean finishes every week. But don't bury this wrestler and don't bury that. Like, the logic isn't there. If everyone beats everyone clean, you have to have a winner and you have to have a loser. And if you don't have 50-50 booking where this person wins one week and this person wins the other, then somebody's going to lose and they're going to, quote unquote, get buried. You can't have everything.
This is why I wanted. This is why I was talking earlier on about like Extreme Rules being like the word, like a great example of that. Like, I'm a really big Oscar fan, like fucking massive. Yeah, the channel, like one of the first like graphics that I figured out how to do was put like a picture of Oscar up on stream. Like, so like that's something that we always talk about. And like the match that she had at Extreme Rules against Sasha was bullshit, but it was bullshit for a reason. It was bullshit that made you watch Monday Night Raw, because I was like, that's bull. I remember sitting here going, that's bullshit. And I was like, really, I was angry. And then, like, I remember over here in the UK, Raw doesn't start till 1 a.m. in the morning, and it's still the same amount of time. It's finishing at 5. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch Raw tonight. I remember having this angry moment. I was like, I want to watch Raw because that was bullshit. And then I started watching it. I was like, God damn it, they got me. They got me to watch. They got me to watch 3 hours of Raw. And just as you said, this is a continuing story. Like, and this is what we've been asking for as fans. So we shouldn't, when they try and do it and do like a story which leaves you wanting more, go, no, I want more. And then when you get it, you go, now I still want more. I think it's best to have these kind of continuing. The one thing that AEW does better, and ECW probably did better than any of the promotions right now, is they did like long-term storylines. They were doing like Breaking Bad before Breaking Bad was happening, essentially.
Right.
Like, it wasn't an episodic show where you watch the one episode and it has no bearing on before. And that's what the WWE used to be. They're trying now to reward you for paying attention. So pay the fucking attention, yeah? And
which
like,
brings
be
us back to the
happy.
conversation you and I had at the beginning of watching it like a TV show. Because I watched all of True Blood, and I love True Blood, but every episode of True Blood that I watched ended in a way that I had to see what happened next week, because I didn't, like, the end was just like, really, what the fuck? Come on. Like, now I have to see what happens. So you're watching every week to get that. That is storytelling. That is the long-term storytelling that we've been begging WWE to bring back, that we got in the Attitude Era, that we wanted so bad. But now everyone wants that instant gratification. They're just looking for stuff to complain about. They don't know what they want. That's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You said earlier that you wanted to talk about the beautiful way they were sending Kyrie off, though.
So I say, yeah. So with Kyrie Sane, obviously she's made a decision that, you know, she I did on the show and we were talking about it, like she's married to her fiance now. They got married in February, and she's moving home.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now, I think that the way they treated it, you know, she got a win over Bailey on the way out, which, how many times does that happen? I said it feels like, with the way that she tweeted out and the way it was handled, was, this feels like one of the most amicable breakups, on the level of like the Moxley breakup, on the level of like, you know what, go do your shit, yeah, we totally are fine with this. I have heard that apparently there's an 18-month, like, we don't know, it's a rumor or something. I think it's a bullshit rumor, but apparently she has to serve out like the 18 months of her contract, apparently. If that's true, that's shitty. But it also brings us to potentially the other rumor that she was going over there to start scouting for NXT Japan, which I just have this feeling that she wouldn't, like, I just think that there are a lot of Japanese wrestlers that congratulated her online. So like Shinsuke Nakamura, Akira Tozawa, Asuka. I think of all of the Japanese imports that came over at that point, Kairi Sane she didn't get chance as much as the rest of them. Like Akira Tozawa was obviously like thrown to 205 Live. Shinsuke Nakamura was given a chance, but Kairi always seemed really unsure of herself. And she had a few injuries and stuff, and it never felt like she was fully brought in to begin with. And so her leaving doesn't really, she was there for 3 years. Like, that's a long time.
I will say this. They did let her be the first to beat Shayna Baszler. And they did, pair her with Asuka and let her have a tag team championship run. So while there is an argument that, you know, they didn't use her to her full potential, and that is obviously there, and that does happen a lot in WWE. She does have some stuff that you can go back and look at and say, okay, we had this amazing talent. She came over. Shayna Baszler was running roughshod over all of NXT. She was the top woman. No one could mess with her. This is the one person that beat her up until, you know, she lost her title before she came up, you know. Kyrie was it. She was the, I think,
She won
longest
the
reigning
Mae
tag team champ. Yeah, she won the Mae Young. Longest reigning tag team champions, I believe, were her and Asuka. I think their run was longer than the Iconics, and I know it was longer than Bayley and Sasha's first run. So,
like, I think with Kyrie, like the main thing is that it feels amicable, and like the way that I was like the way that they've kind of sent her off was, it feels like it's less of a I'm leaving because I hate this, and more I'm leaving because I have some other stuff to do and I'll be back later.
right.
Which in my opinion shows more about the way that she was treated in a good way than in a kind of I'm leaving, I'm going to Stardom, I'm leaving, I'm going to go do this. Like, she's just like, it's been the middle of a fucking pandemic. Yeah, I was going to get married anyway. I might not be able to go back home ever again. I'm just going to go home. I'm just going to go home. I'm going to chill there for a bit, let all this like cool off, and then I'll come back. Like, that's what it feels like to me.
And I'm perfectly down with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we had Buddy Murphy defeat Humberto Carrillo, which was nice to see Murphy get a win. It's been a while since I've seen him hit the Murphy's Law, even though now I've seen it twice this week because I did it on NXT. And then we had Drew cutting a promo, basically saying he's looking past Dolph to Randy, tells Dolph the match is going to be an Extreme Rules match, but it's an Extreme Rules match for both of us. And Drew defeats Dolph, hopefully ending this weird little side feud that they had. What I want to talk about, the last thing we need to talk about on Monday Night Raw. So we got Seth Rollins trying to reassure Murphy about Dominic tonight. Dominic comes out to the promise of no violence until Dominic strikes Seth Rollins, and then they jump him. And then Aleister Black is one of my favorite. I fell in love with him in NXT. What they did with him in NXT, I was not a fan of strikers prior to Aleister Black. The running knees and things like that, they didn't do it for me. To me, those weren't finishes. Those were just, I mean, Shawn Michaels had the super kick. That was really my exception to the rule. But Aleister Black and the Black Mass and the character that they gave him in NXT, I really fell in love with it. And I've been struggling with it because of the way they portrayed him on the main roster, with him in the dark room, you know, breathing heavy and pick a fight with me, and like not doing what Triple H did with him and kind of trying to change that character. And then now all of a sudden he's Ray's protege and Humberto Carrillo's best friend out of nowhere for no reason. They have him come down with one arm. He attacks them, gets jumped, and then his eye gets shoved into, again, the stairs, because this is just what we do now. But by Buddy Murphy, as almost like a initiation from Seth Rollins, as I've done it, now you've got to do it. Come join me. Come walk on water with me. Take this man's eye out. The rumor is they're writing Aleister Black off TV to repackage him, and I don't know how I feel about that.
When I look at Aleister Black, and what he did in NXT, because I as well, I never knew him as Tommy End. I just knew him as Aleister Black. And I remember being told about this guy, Tommy End, and I was like, whatever. And I saw Aleister Black for the first time in NXT, and I was like, this is really interesting. Like, the first thought I remember having, I was like, how are they going to get this to the main roster? And then they did, and they tried to keep as much of it as they could. But just like a lot of the ideas, I feel like I think part of it is Vince and part of it is Bruce. And like, they look at it and they go, okay, this guy is like goth. So then Vince goes, I know what goths do. They sit in a dark room. And then Bruce goes, I know what we'll do. We'll put him in a fucking cupboard. And then he's just in a cupboard, isn't he? And then they forget, and then Vince forgets about things anyway. And then every now and then he opens the door and he's like, oh shit, you're in here, aren't you? I'll write something for you this week. Like, they really fucked him. Like, they really fucked him. Like, even when he came up with Ricochet, even then, like, people were like, oh my God, this guy's got something. And like, again, yeah, how do you repackage that guy? Like, he has a very distinct look to him. Like, you're gonna, like, okay, there's no crowd there, so you're not gonna get like an Albert situation. But like, are we that stupid that he's gonna, like, do you repackage him as like I feel like he works as you said, like a pure striker. I think the gimmick part of what he has, that's very mysterious. That's more of an aura. Like, that's more of a kind of, it isn't like a necessary, like, he is Satanist or he is evil. It's just, he's got this black magic, dark magic kind of voodoo shit about him, but it's not necessarily a, I think it's not a Papa Shango kind of juju.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a like an unsettling but like attractive in a way, like you kind of attracted to it.
And that's the problem, is neither Vince nor Bruce know how to do subtle. They need a very in-your-face gimmick. Like, I give them props. One of my favorite storylines in wrestling is the Undertaker-Kane story, but Kane is a burnt guy who, you know, has this deep, involved backstory. It's very on the surface. Undertaker was this, you know, mortician that they evolved into this satanic priest, you know, very on the surface, in your face. They don't do subtle very well. So where Triple H succeeded in taking that subtle aspect and just having him be calm and quiet and zen, but then knock people's heads off, Bruce and Vince don't know how to do that. They don't, it confuses them. They need more substance. They need a full-fledged backstory character, and they're going to give it to him, and I'm really worried about it.
See, the other thing is that Kevin Dunn needs at least 40 different positions that he can set cameras up to, so when they do come out for their entrance. Like, yeah, it's just, I looked at Aleister Black. I remember, like, there were a few people looked at on the NXT roster. So it was Aleister Black. There were a few others I can remember back then. I can't remember anyone other than Aleister Black. And I was like, he just won't translate to the main roster. Like, there's just, and then there was all that speculation about him not being able to go to Saudi because of his tattoos. Which I remember when I saw his tattoos the first time, I was like, oh, he's Tom Code himself. Like, he's fucked. Because he'll never be able to be anything other than that, which is not an issue when that's your gimmick, that you're like mysterious. But if you're coming out there and Vince decides that you're dancing this week, like, then you're going to look foolish, aren't you? You're going to look ridiculously foolish. But with Aleister, I think if he joined, I think a more natural joining for him would have been Seth's side. Like kind of like, I see and I understand and I can get like where you're coming from and I'm gonna come help you with a little bit of the black magic. Like, that makes more sense than, and also just to close, isn't WWE supposed to be, at least in some way, like child friendly? You're telling kids to take your, like, their friends, like all the stuff that we tried at home, like bar the dead eye that you were doing on like fucking trampolines, The point is that how many times did we watch a piece of wrestling like media and go, we're going to copy that and actually do some serious bodily harm to someone? Because the way that they rub their eye on there is very soft, but obviously his eye has come out. So, like, when we used to play like Royal Rumbles in the playground at school, are we going to have kids playing eye for eye matches in their playground? It's fine. It's a ping pong ball, miss. It's a no, it's not. It's its fucking eye. It's fine. His eye socket's fine. Look, I put it back. I don't understand. Like, and it's so weird. So fucking weird.
We in the backyard, we got a little hardcore, and we were practicing hitting each other with broomsticks, but pulling it back before we really hit them. I cracked one of my friends right across the forehead with the broomstick, left a huge welt on his forehead. He was worried that his mom wouldn't let him come back to my house because I hit him in the face with a broomstick. So he's trying to hide it under a Yankees hat. We're in the bathroom, like, trying to pull this Yankees hat down over this giant lump on his forehead to hide it. He ended up telling his mom that we were bored and I was spinning in circles, swinging the broomstick, and he walked into it. Just
kayfabe at a young age. Like one of the I once took a super kick to the face, with a chair, like because I'm stupid. So I was in college, but that's high school for us, so like 16, 17, and like wrestling was massive over here, and I was getting into it like really big. And we had folding chairs in our common room at college, high school, like senior school. So I remember one of the other guys could do a super kick and like Shawn Michaels super kick. So I was like, I'm going to show everyone how to take a chair. I did it. He did not pull back at all, and I just took the brunt of this chair to my face. Luckily, it was plastic, and everyone laughed, and I was young, so it was fine. But yeah, if eye for an eye matches existed back then, we would have had an eye.
yeah.
I know for sure. And we were like 16, 17-year-old kids. Someone would have lost an eye. Everyone would have lost an eye.
I delivered a cross power bomb off a trampoline through a folding chair. We had like the long lounge folding chairs. We tried to set them up like a table, and he went right between the feet, just straight to the ground, just cross power bombed off my shoulders right to the ground. Monday Night Raw, spit or swallow. What you got?
Yes. Monday Night Raw, all in all, swallow. Because it was all in all, it was fine. And the Kairi Sane stuff I was really impressed with. I was really happy with.
Yeah. I'm going to almost knocked my mic over. I'm going to agree with you there. I'm going to swallow as well, mostly for the Kairi Sane stuff. Normally, I'm really petty here. I'm going to be like, after what they did to Aleister Black, I'm spitting. But overall, and what they did with Kairi Sane, I actually really enjoyed that. So I'm going to swallow as well. SmackDown. All right. So we've got Bray saying that The Fiend wants what Braun has, and he's coming for that Universal title. Then we get AJ Styles versus Grand Metalik for the Intercontinental title. I think we all knew, unfortunately, Grand Metalik was not going to win, but I actually normally would have discounted this match. I sat down, I'm like, you know what? It's probably going to be a really entertaining match. So I sat down, watched it just to enjoy the wrestling this time, as opposed to being like, I know AJ's going to win. This is stupid. Why are we even doing this? Like, sat down to enjoy it, and it was a good match. I did enjoy it.
I thought it was good. It was really good.
Corbin makes Gable an offer to get the King's ransom, and after we have a bar fight recap and Jeff talks about his sobriety, Corbin complains about Jeff. Gulak comes down and attacks him. We see Corbin defeat Gulak despite Riddle trying to distract him by coming out at the end of the match. Riddle attacks Corbin, and then down comes Shorty G, who German suplexes Matt Riddle, and hopefully they stop calling him Shorty G, and we get a repackaged character as he goes for their King's ransom and makes his heel turn.
And that rolling German from Chad, from Shorty G. Let's fucking call it. He will be Chad soon again.
Yeah, call him Chad.
Yeah, we'll call him Chad. But like from Chad, oh my god, like every single time, like I see him do stuff, that rolling German, like I've seen it before, but it's so impressive, isn't it? Like I hate that he's Shorty G. Like I don't even. Like, I know why, and I feel like it is one of those things like Vince walks in, you're short, and then he's like, you're Shorty G. Like, I could just see that shit. But he's really, I think he's really done well. Like, he's shown that he's a good wrestler. And I'm kind of intrigued about this pairing with Corbin. Like, it's interesting because it is just for the money. So that's quite cool. Like, that's it's interesting.
Yeah, no, he's definitely looking out for himself now. Like you said, it's just for the money. So I'm interested to see where this went. This was actually a much better episode of SmackDown than I expect.
I really enjoyed this episode of SmackDown.
Yeah. Naomi defeats Lacey. We've got Lacey going heel hard here. She's cutting a promo about the movement for Naomi. She's sticking Naomi's hair in the stairs and trying to tie it up on the turnbuckle and just basically going after kind of the whole social media buzz and saying, what about me? And even playing off this whole, Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter thing a little bit where, it's a movement for Naomi. Well, hey, why is it just about Naomi? Why isn't it about me? That they kind of played up to that a little bit, which was interesting.
Like when the whole Lacey Evans thing, And like, this isn't like this is just me speaking about it. Like, I don't, obviously there's a perception, mostly over here in the UK, a perception that the South isn't that
Educated.
No, I wasn't going to say that. No, I was going to say it isn't that friend. No, because they got big guns. No, like I, I think that sometimes the South is like, it's perceived to be quite xenophobic, and like it's perceived to be like so like, I don't like personally watching it, and I don't like, I'm not for canceling social media or any of that bullshit. Sorry, social justice shit or any of that. But I'm watching it and I'm like, so you have what I would personally see as a real Southern girl, potentially whose parents owned some people not that long ago, telling someone, using parts of their body that dictates them and in some ways defines them and uses them against them. Like, I think it's a bit weird. Maybe I'm reading too much into it and I'm reaching, but the fact that she's using her extensions, and as you've said as well, like the way that it was kind of like, yeah, she ran over to what's his name? She ran over to that guy who has a podcast, I can't remember his name, After the Bell. The other commentator that isn't Cole.
Corey.
But Corey, yeah. And she's like, Corey Graves. She's like, where's my hashtag? And also, pop of the evening, I gotta love Michael Cole. I hope this came from Michael Cole and not from Vince. But he said, "Oh, looks like Naomi's hair has become entangled."
Yes,
like she's got a way out of that entanglement. And I was like, "Oh, I fucking love Cole. Fucking pop me, man.
I
Pop me
popped for that
hard,
too.
like." But yeah, at least they had a match. At
And
least Naomi won.
Naomi got the win. Absolutely. This is where the show got really good for me. Like, don't get me wrong, the first hour was fun and there was good wrestling in that, but this is where it picked up. We see Mandy and Otis backstage. Mandy's talking about date night, and she's using all this sexual innuendo that is clearly just going over Otis's head. She's like, I got us a private room in the back so no one can see how much we do all you can eat. And he goes, well, what about dessert? And she goes, how about peach cobbler? Dripping in chocolate sauce with whipped cream and a cherry on top. You see him like salivating over the idea of food. Whereas I'm thinking, oh shit, if this was the Attitude Era, we'd be getting a Varsity Blues, Mandy Rose in a whipped cream bikini fucking scene right here.
You're right. And she'd be wearing a ham on top of her head.
And I'd be okay with it. 100%.
I would totally be fine with it as well. Actually, maybe there'll be a pressed ham situation. Actually, that's probably what would happen. I think it would be pressed ham.
You and I were both featured on the Unpopular Opinions episode so they recorded episode 5 last night. It'll be released next week. And one of your tweets and one of my tweets was there. My tweet was,
really?
Yes. So you should check that out. It's got Jizzy from the Deadass Girls and Kevin and Kyle and someone from World Wrestling News whose name's escaping me right now. I'm sorry if you're listening. They cover, they do their unpopular opinion thing. But my unpopular opinion was that we should be able to have both women's wrestlers and divas in 2020. It shouldn't have to be one or the other. If there are women like Scarlett or Eva Marie or Lana who are more comfortable with their sexuality and using their sexuality and empowered by it, we should be able to have that in conjunction with great wrestlers who don't want to be that aspect of it. But it shouldn't have to be one or the other. They said my opinion was trash. They all disagreed. They think that it should be about women's wrestling. We don't need to go back to bra and panties matches and the stuff we had in the Attitude Era. I disagree. I respect it, but that's what I felt like Mandy Rose was giving us a little bit of, is that,
like, I agree with you there. Like, I think what it is that it was the mass, and like I've spoken to a few people like since now, and they tell me about how when they were younger they hated women's wrestling. Like women though, because they were like, we were looking up to look for an idol and we couldn't see one, or we just didn't like watching women's wrestling. We wanted to, because of it being over sexualized. That was a remnant of that time. But as you say, someone like I remember before Scarlett came to the WWE, and the first thing they said was, "Well, I guess you'll have to put some clothes on or something." And I was like, I don't think she's going to sign the contract if she can't do what she wants to do. And even when we saw the wrestlers in Saudi, the women's match in Saudi, and they were wearing like those long T-shirts and shit, and also have to give Bailey massive credit for like that heel spot that she did, putting the T-shirt over Naomi. Oh, absolutely beautiful. But there isn't like, we should be in a progressive society enough now to be able to separate that. And if there's a wrestler like Mandy Rose that wants to use their sexuality, then we can have what happened later on as a theme of a story, because that puts both of those two, you could say both those two opinions at loggerheads in a very physical way and in a very understandable way to the audience, because it's real. Like,
we were about half a second away from a nip slip from Mandy Rose there. I don't know if you noticed, but part of her top came undone as Sonya Deville was beating her down and writing on her
camera
face.
guy out.
Yeah.
Did you see, like, they got that fucking camera guy out? Like, damn, he was kicking the shit out of her. I was like, damn. Like, initially I was like, is that, did she like bust her open as well, didn't she? Because I was like,
it was the lipstick. She was drawing on her face with lipstick. Then she threw her down. She cut her hair or her extensions with the scissors.
Oh, yeah.
And she actually picked that up and left with it because she had gone to get, and I love this, she went to get clippers, and then as they came to stop her, she's like fighting the officials off with the clippers like it's a taser. And they're like, hey.
So I'm going to tell you this. Obviously, I watch wrestling at like 2 o'clock. So at that point, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I've just spent the evening with my new housemate, and we watched some films and stuff. And like, I'm going to go to my room to watch wrestling. So basically, for the past few hours, my room has been like, at that point, it's really hot in the UK. So I've got all my windows open. So all the street can hear these two women grunting, and then what sounds like a device to provide pleasure at a very loud noise, a very, very loud rate, yeah. And this woman going, I'm coming for you, I'm coming for you. And then a bunch of dudes turning up. So for me, yeah, that was hilarious. And like, no, I loved it. I really like this fire from Sonya Deville and this kind of, this realness, because that first promo she did as well, where she's like, fuck you, Mandy. She's embodying this, and this is where exactly that point that you were talking about earlier on, like, it's us seeing that, it's the discussion happening in front of us. And I think that that's way better because it allows there to be two different kinds of wrestler coming out. And like, yeah.
And as you said, they're actually kind of slapping us in the face with it because Sonya keeps saying, I've made her ugly now. What is she now that I've made her ugly? What else? What does she have left? So now it's up to Mandy Rose she's played that, the sexy sex appeal, saxophone, blurry image, diva-esque character. Now it's time for her to come back, and she can still be that, but show that she's more than that she can be both ends of it. It doesn't have to be she's just an object of lust or a wrestler. She can be an object of lust who can actually also go in the ring and kick ass, which we got from Trish Stratus eventually as they kind of toned down the lust a little bit and focus more on the wrestling. And then we had Miz and Morrison at the end with the haircut puns, which was just great.
Did someone did they both swallow a fucking thesaurus or my stand-up's first book? Because I was watching them and I remember just thinking, oh god. And the worst part about it is just that particular scene. It's like, I can't remember her name now, but it's Kayla Braxton, isn't it? It's Kayla Braxton.
Yes.
So Kayla Braxton's there and she's there going, hey, so all these things are happening behind me. Then Otis turns up. I'm like, how did Kayla get there first? All right, that's fine. She's a roving reporter. And then she's there. And as this is all happening behind them, yeah, and then you've got Miz and Morrison who just fucking turned up in shot and they went, oh, I see that some hilarious things are happening right behind us now, and let's make some jokes about it. It was just initially when they were talking about the inmates were in the asylum and stuff, I liked that this week that they kept touching upon that there are no authority figures or anything and people just do whatever the fuck they want. And I liked the fact that they were just stood there like it was a police squad sketch. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a wrestling thing. but yeah, Miz and Morrison, you know, they they're not as good as Bailey and no, sorry, Bailey and Sasha are better than them at
Yes,
what they do right now.
I agree. No, they've been very hit or miss for me. Some of the stuff like tonight hits, some of the other stuff misses. I really enjoyed like them kind of being these funny characters in like a news report who are just, trying to quote unquote mess with the news reporter.
Yeah.
Nikki loses to Bailey in our main event for the title. Again, another really good match. Nikki busting her ass, all out. This is, in her opinion, her last chance. And after she loses, she's broken. She's sad. Alexa's trying to console her, telling her you did a really good job. She doesn't want to hear it. She shoves Alexa Bliss down, and she leaves Alexa Bliss behind to go to the back. This is the most amazing thing. The lights go out. The Fiend shows up. He's circling Alexa Bliss. He slowly just kind of places his two fingers closer and closer and closer to her mouth. She's not giving consent. She's not saying okay. He doesn't seem to care. He just goes right in, mandible claws her, playing up what we got in the swamp match where we saw Braun Strowman's affections for Alexa Bliss, which is a callback to something that happened 2 years ago in the Mixed Match Challenge that we're bringing back in. Now,
Team Little Big.
oh my God. I loved every aspect of this. Now, I saw a lot of people saying Alexa Bliss is going to, be changed by the Fiend and Sister Abigail. That's not what I want to see. What I want to see is Nikki Cross go to Bray Wyatt broken. Because imagine Nikki Cross and Bray Wyatt doing the Firefly Funhouse together. Her being his sidekick in the Firefly Funhouse, but then also coming out and they can have a mixed tag with Alexa and Braun. We'll have Team Little Big back together. And now this, this broken, hurt Nikki Cross, who has aligned herself with Bray Wyatt, who has like manipulated her. The Firefly Funhouse segments alone would be amazing. But then you have that aspect of her going to the dark side, turning heel. We get the Twisted Sister, Nikki Cross back.
Mm-hmm. Like, I was really... So first of all, they fucking logo swerved us again. I love when they do that. Like, I love it so much. Like, it never gets old for me. Never gets old for me. Obviously, there was speculation on Twitter that you got to keep your eyes on Alexa. Something's going to happen. And, like, I remember thinking, is she going to turn? And, like, obviously, when Nikki was there, she's going to push her and stuff. And I was like, but the actual ending to that, I thought was really good. It's something that I think the Fiend does really well, and that Bray Wyatt, when he is the Fiend, does really well. Like, he's very expressive with his body, and like, so even though he's got the mask on and stuff, you can read a lot of nuance into his performance. So that whole thing, as you said, it was almost like a dance. Like, it was like he was there and it was an increased intensity. Like, it wasn't just him coming in, just mad. It was like you had time to think about it and savor that moment.
Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? He's going to do it.
And the position that she was in, the subservient position, it's like, oh, maybe she is going to join in. Maybe she's going to reveal herself to be part of all of this. It's again, I think it leads back into what we were saying about Extreme Rules. It leaves us with way more questions than it leaves us with answers. And that's something that I really appreciate from any kind of like fictional media that I watch. And I think it could even be that she isn't changed, and that maybe this is feeding into that kind of horror part of what's going on. And Bray just wants to kidnap her to get Braun. Maybe he's got Braun like there and he's still trying to turn him, and Braun's like, nah. So he's like, okay, cool, I brought her. Now are you going to do what I say?
Or he's using her to bait Braun into that fight. He's thinking now Braun won't take the fight with the Fiend, so he'll take what Braun wants most in Alexa Bliss and use that as a pawn to get Braun to accept the fight. If you want her, I have her, come save her.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's a really, it's really interesting with what's going on with the Fiend now. I spoke to a few people about this, and I said what I find really most unique about him is that each of the individual personas, I don't feel, are affected by a loss or a win. Like each of the individual personas are individual personas. So if he has a program with someone, he can have a program with all three versions of himself, and he could lose all three matches and it wouldn't really matter, because it's almost like there's an inbuilt excuse. Oh, well, in that one, he was Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt isn't as powerful as The Fiend. And in that one, he was Colt Wyatt, and Colt Wyatt isn't as, so like, I like that. I like
See,
that about it.
I agree and I disagree. I feel like the Fiend needs to stay, other than that Goldberg loss, which they've kind of explained with him popping up right away as the sacrifice the Fiend made because he really wanted John Cena and the title was holding him back. I think the Fiend needs to stay strong. The Fiend needs to be almost like the Demon Finn Balor. It's what Bray goes to as a last resort when he can't get the win. And then if the Fiend does beat Braun Strowman, as you said, you've got Firefly Funhouse or cult leader Bray who can take a loss and lose that title without letting the Fiend suffer from it. But the Fiend needs to be that supernatural, all-powerful, end-all, be-all, last resort for Bray Wyatt to what he goes to when he's losing, because that was what plagued Bray Wyatt in the beginning with that cult leader thing. Was they would build all these stories up, but then he kept losing and he was gaining no momentum. You were killing him. He would recruit Daniel Bryan or he would recruit this person, but then he'd lose that fight. He'd lose to Randy Orton. He'd lose to all these people. He wasn't really gaining any wins, and it left you flat. So now he's got that last resort, that inner demon that comes out and beats everyone other than Goldberg.
Yeah.
Via sacrifice.
Wow, exactly. But yeah, that was a sacrifice. Like I am a really big fan of that kind of storytelling as well. So like with him, I think you're right. And like the Fiend is the one that has to be protected at all costs. And I also find it quite interesting that when he is Bray Wyatt, like he speaks about the Fiend being angry that like the other ones have lost, and that, as you said, this is the final resort. And like the Fiend, the way that it's played is he is probably very lucky that, like, there's a lot of wrestlers that have been very lucky by it being locked down. He's probably benefited the most, I feel, because there hasn't been anything to like an audience to have the response that would make Vince go, because like even that Hell in a Cell, Vince wanted to pop himself because he was and that was all the reports, wasn't it? It was like, oh, well, everyone was pissed off, so Vince thought he'd done well. And I was like, the red light and the finish, and I'm like, that isn't there anymore. So he's probably more likely to listen to wrestlers. And Bray's been spectacular, like with everything that he's done. I have been so down for it. And again, because of the end of this show, like I've been watching SmackDown now for the past I've actually watched SmackDown every week since Extreme Rules live, and I don't normally watch it live. And it's because those ongoing storylines got me, and I was like, I'll have to wait till Friday for the Fiend one.
They've definitely got me. But Fowl, I've kept you up way too late. I know you have another podcast to do. Stop 2 on the hashtag Book Fowl Tour. So please let me know, SmackDown, spit or swallow.
Swallow, swallow. I'll even like I'm porno, bro. I will swallow. I will swallow. I'll spit it back out, and I'll suck it back down.
I love how creative everyone is when they come to deciding whether or not they want to spit or swallow.
I'm going to come in. I want to come hard.
Exactly. I'm going to swallow as well. I'm actually going to pick SmackDown as the best show of the week. Those last 2 things were probably my favorite thing of everything I saw all week. And I really love the Dexter Lumis stuff. Like I said, we had some great stuff in AEW, some good stuff over on Raw, but that last hour of SmackDown really sold me. So I'm going to say SmackDown was the best show of the week this week, in my opinion.
All in all, I'd probably it would be a toss-up between AEW and SmackDown, but I'd probably give the edge to Dynamite this week, just because I'm a filthy biased bastard.
And I accept that. I understand that. Please let everyone know where they can find you, follow you, check you out, hear you, listen to you, plug all your shit.
Sure. So here I am plugging myself on Pornhub. I'm Fowl Original. You can find me on Twitter at Fowl_original. You can also find me on Instagram at Fowl Original. New album is coming out called Wrestling with Coffee Volume 1. If you want to get an exclusive Patreon style version with CD liner art and stuff like that, which I made, go to patreon.com/Fowl Original. Tiers start at $1, and then I give you all of myself for $1. I'm cheap. I'm on Pornhub right now. This is free. Like, so imagine what I do for $1 now. And yeah, you can also follow my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fowl Original Wrestling. You really didn't think you were going to get this, did you? youtube.com/Fowl Original Wrestling. Yeah, and yeah, anywhere else I'm about. And as I said to people, obviously, during this book Fowl tour, please get in touch with me if you've got any random time. Right now, it is 7:34 a.m. in the morning in the UK. I started this show at 5, so believe me, I am open for anything.
He really is. I really hope that even though I had you up late, I guess, because you didn't really go to sleep, you've enjoyed your time here with the Smackin' Raw podcast.
I have. I've got some lotion for afterwards.
Beautiful. I as well. I'm gonna go rewatch that Mandy Rose segment and Smack It Raw. Can you please? Travis has been really pushing the YouTube channel, so if you get a chance, this should be up by Sunday at the latest. I'm gonna send it over to Travis. He should have it up. So plug us. Let us know. Let everyone know you were on the show. He really wants to get those YouTube subscribers up. We get more views on Pornhub than we do YouTube, and it drives him nuts because it was my
The thing
idea.
is, if I plug you on YouTube, yeah, I've got to use lube.
Yes, you do.
I've got to be gentler, you know.
You do.
It's a whole demonetization thing. But no, of course, like I said, like where I'm going to be doing some roundtables and stuff, hopefully coming up in the future, and like yourself is someone that I definitely want to have on. Like I'm going to figure them out time wise, and we've got some schedules to do. But yeah, I've really enjoyed my time here. It's been very, very fun. It's very nice to come to somewhere where it's a little more relaxed. Like I don't feel like we've crossed any lines. I think we've just had fun, and
Absolutely.
I think that's great. And one thing that I wanted to say before I went was that, you know, we might all have differing opinions about stuff. End of the day, we all come here because we love wrestling, and like when you can have like a discussion, like an actual discussion here. We didn't agree on everything that was said here, like, and that's good. That's a good thing. So that's all I got to say on that. Like, I'm really happy that people like ourselves who are essentially on opposite ends of the aisle when it comes to the way that we probably look at our content and do it, like, but we could come together, and we could come together on Pornhub.
I am down to come with as many people as want to come with me on Pornhub. Speaking of which, you guys can find us facebook.com/group/Smackin' It Raw, facebook.com/Creation World if you want to look for us on Facebook. As always, my Twitter at Matt Ritter, that is at MATTRIDDER. We also, if you go to that Twitter handle at Matt Ritter, there are link trees there. Linktree/Smackin' It Raw gives you all of the places you can find the audio for this podcast, and Linktree/Creation World allows you the access to the YouTube, where you can find us on Pornhub, as well as our Patreon and Teespring store, where we have a couple shirts up for sale if you'd like to purchase those. Again, Fowl, I really do appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. Today, we are Smackin' It Raw, and we are the #1 podcast on Pornhub.
Yep.